You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. Good morning, everybody. We are doing a morning show, and I'm excited to do it. I can't wait to introduce you to our guest today, but welcome to another episode of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. It is a beautiful day outside, and I appreciate all of you great Americans showing up. I want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. We got Mockingbird Lane, Natalie Harmon, we got Mackenzie Moore. We got a whole bunch of other folks out there. And I want to say thank you to all the mods. I see obscure moderator Ben. He's always showing up. If you haven't said hello yet, make sure you do so. And also make sure you like, subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, down in the description below is a link. You can become a member. A couple of bucks a month. It goes a long way. And also make sure you go down and check out the links to our guest. Make sure you go follow Tinashe. But again, we appreciate you guys. And I know many of you guys are at work, and we don't normally do these morning ones, but Tinashe's on a different time zone. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But without further ado, welcome to the show, Tinashe Peter. Wrong button. Tinashe.
Top of the morning to you, my man. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Seriously, my pleasure. You've been doing God's work out there. We appreciate you so much. I've enjoyed your content. And, you know, for people that don't know who you are, introduce yourself a little bit. And I'd actually like to get into like your origin story. But
okay, yeah, we could definitely do that. So let's see. Professional instigator, Groiper, brain breaker. What else we got? I'm honestly, look, you could probably relate to this because you're somebody who had a calling on your life. And, you know, when you were a young man, you're probably running around doing things you weren't supposed to be doing. And then something changed somewhere along the line and you felt duty and responsibility. And more than anything else, a duty to truth, right? Yeah. To stand up for it, to fight for it. And now here you are. And so for myself, I have the same sort of story. It just looks a little different and started on a different continent altogether. So a little bit about my background. I was actually born in Zimbabwe, which is something I was sharing on my morning sort of video recording today, realizing that half of the people out there who listen to me on the regular don't even know. They just assume that, you know, I was born in the States. I didn't have family. Oftentimes the leftists tell me that I'm going to go back to slavery, which is interesting because, you know, that exactly wasn't the lineage, but okay. So, yeah, I was born and raised between Zimbabwe and South Africa. Age 9 to age 10, we were afforded the opportunity, the blessing of a lifetime to come to the United States under the green card process. And so I really see that as the beginning of my life, right? Where, you know, there was always this image of the United States before the opportunity ever showed up. And I was blessed enough to be able to go to the United States, not just as a part-time visitor, but to become a legal citizen. And so, yeah, we could take it wherever you want to go from there, right? There's a whole lot in between then and then this point right now.
No, that's really interesting. So, you know, growing up in Africa, being born in Africa there, and then coming to the United States, like what was the difference between the perception as a young child of America compared to the reality of coming to America? Like, what did that look like for you?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The food was definitely meeting perception. I got chubby real quick. I just said that way. I was eating everything I could get my hands on. So the perception for me was Hollywood, right? My dad said when I was 2 years old, I told him that one day I was going to move to America and I was going to live with Will Smith, which means something completely different in 2026. So, you know, I had this image of the glitz, the glamour, the Hollywood thing. And also I was, you know, at a very young age in the world of acting. So that made sense for me. You know, I never really fit into that environment necessarily. And so, you know, I don't know if it helped that the first time we made our way over. And the first time I made my way over to California, we go to Los Angeles and we're down the Walk of Fame, and then I run into a guy by the name of, they call him Big, Rob Dyrdek's guy, passed away a couple years back. And so, this is a guy I used to watch on MTV, and I'm like, oh, so there are just celebrities walking around, through the streets, etc. So there was that aspect, but something that I don't know if I was prepared for was the unfortunate ignorance that I met, when I'm now getting into my first conversations. So when we first moved over, my brother and I were in Texas, which is where most of my dad's family was, and they went over to California to sort of set up shop. So in Texas, Dallas, Texas, to be specific, Cedar Hill, to be even more specific than that, I went to my first American school. I still had the African accent. I still said Z instead of Z. And so, I stood out like a sore thumb, except for aesthetic. That one can be confused all the time. But once I open my mouth, they're like, oh, this guy he's from way outfield. And so I got questions like, did you grow up in a hut? Did you have pet lions? Did you walk in the midst of the giraffes? And sometimes I went along with it. I had a little bit of fun. But I think that part, I was like, oh, people really don't know what it means to be from, Africa, let alone just outside of the country. And so there was an acclimation to that aspect. But culturally wise, I think because I came from a faith-filled family, a Holy Spirit-filled family, my dad was never a victim-minded guy, was always an entrepreneur, self-starter. And so the cultural aspect was easy, to be honest. It made sense. Like, okay, we're here and we can, work our behinds off and get results for what we work for, as opposed to the socialist environment we're coming out of. And, it seemed like a no-brainer. Like, of course, we're going to make everything out of this and, and buckle down. And I'm watching my dad and he's now coming from nothing again. And he's building something from a little 2-room apartment. And all of a sudden we're moving to better and better situations. And yeah, I mean, the cultural element, it just fit like a glove.
That's awesome, man. No,
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to travel all over Africa, and I want to take my kids there. I'll never forget the first place that I ever went to in Africa was Lagos, Nigeria. Matter of fact, I happened to be there right when COVID hit, and we almost got, if we hadn't left the airport like 3 hours, if we'd left the airport 3 hours later, we'd have been stuck there for like 6 months. But watching people live it, like just like kids walking through just like basically sewage and the level of poverty that we in the United States just can't understand.
Yeah.
And seeing how blessed we are, and then seeing even in that environment, and especially in Nigeria, like it's rough, man. It's rough. And it's almost like all the businesses there and everything else, it's almost like a gang mentality. Like it's interesting to see, but people are even making it there. And then so when people come over to the United States and they actually have a much more fair playing field, it's amazing to see that people come from all over the world, and then they come to the United States and they apply 10% of what they had to in a different country, and they become extremely successful.
Absolutely.
And yet we have so many Americans, and I don't care what color you are. And now we got this, we were talking about this at length last night, this, grievance mentality, even amongst affluent white people that are sitting around and like, oh, the system is against me. And it is nuts to see. Like, you have so much opportunity in this world, and America is still the greatest country on earth. I've been all over the world. There's no other place I'd rather be.
Absolutely.
It doesn't even compare. And as bad as it can be, even under the Biden administration, like, you still have more opportunity than anywhere else. And if you're sitting around complaining that you can't get ahead, the only person you should be complaining to is the guy in the mirror, because there's a lot of opportunity. Unless, and I want to give everybody out there, unless you're disabled, but even then, like, you can be an online personality. There's so many different ways that you can apply yourself and become successful. But if you just sit around and complain about the world, you're never going to get there.
Gary, the funny thing is, like, I oftentimes jump to the same thing of except for this group, but I've seen that the case is most of the folks who have the excuse are not the ones using the excuse.
Exactly.
It's the able-bodied, able-minded, just doesn't want to do anything, feels entitled to everything. And to them folks, I say, look, take a trip. Airports are open right now. You can go ahead and take a trip. It wasn't 2020 like you almost getting trapped in Legos, which would have been a time for you. You've been knocking on people's windows in the middle of the street hustling. But I say if you don't like it here, there is also the freedom to leave. Like, it's really that simple.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So let's talk a little bit about how. So, like, you went to California. Your dream was to become an actor. It sounds like.
So yeah, I mean, from the age of 2. So I was placed in my first commercial as a little kid. And my dad was like, okay, this kid is loud and he remembers things. Those are kind of like the 2 baseline skill sets. But he said, I think we got a path for him. And so ended up going to school by the name of Heronbridge College. It's not, college in the same way we perceive it. It was a brand new school. And it was a K through 12, which is, again, the systems are just so wild out there in some cases. So me and my brother, who's 6 years older than me, are now going to the same school. Right, just to put that into perspective. But at that school, they basically noticed the same thing. And this is now in South Africa, mind you, just to give a little context. They noticed that, okay, this kid's got an aptitude for this. And, they were looking to create a performing arts program that was kind of world class. And so, I basically became somebody who was being nurtured in that process. And even to the day that my family was about to leave, the school offered to keep me in South Africa, pay for me through college, basically have a family raise me just so they can keep me in their acting program. Because I guess they were getting grants and all sort of stuff was going on. So that was supposed to be the path for the longest. But, obviously my dad is not going to go for that. And so he brought us over to the States. So, he saw opportunity for me, but he really saw it for the entire family. Right. Him as an entrepreneur, it was a no-brainer. Anything that my brother was going to get into, and then myself, which that was the first intended path before I completely threw all of that away and try to become somebody else and acclimate to the aspects of what I believed I was supposed to be, into Black culture, etc. So that's a whole other part of my story, and maybe we can unpack that at some point.
No, I definitely would like to.
Yeah.
So, like, how did you end up becoming or determining that you were going to stand up for conservative values? Like, where did that fundamental belief come from?
So I don't think I knew I was a conservative until I was probably, goodness, this would have been back in 2015, 2016, right? Now, mind you, I'm growing up in California. I'm in the Bay Area, the hub of wokeness, right?
Yeah.
So we're not even necessarily having a conversation at that time of like, oh, we're, Democrats or Republicans. It's just assumed. Only one time throughout my whole high school career was I ever asked by a dad or one of my homegirls. He said, oh, you're a Democrat, right? And I looked at him, I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, good. I don't even know what that meant.
Right.
I just knew that, when we got here, it's like, okay, Obama. Obama, we're supposed to like him because he's Black. Okay, sure. It just kind of went ahead with it, right? Not thinking these things through. My dad was not a highly political guy when we first moved to the States. We had dealt with our own political problems back home, and him being in the place that he was in business, he had to deal with the government personally. And so, when your government is that corrupt and you're a person who won't compromise on your morals and your integrity, it just, there's friction. So I think that kind of warded him away from the world of politics.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, upwards until like 14, 15, it was really faith. And then I completely walked away from that. And, then drugs came in and that lifestyle. And so during that part of my process, like there was no political anything. I was politically apolitical. I was ignorant in most cases, but I was still following a leftist script, right? Like there's a script for us. It's like, okay, you're black, so that means you're supposed to believe this, you're supposed to like this. If you do this and this, then, like I told you, I'd stopped acting by the time I was 11, 12, getting paid for plays, etc. I was like, I don't want that. I want to play basketball. I want to do things that they say are black enough, right? Which is a whole entire thing in itself. And so, I start getting into the drug culture, into the rap culture and things of that nature. And yeah, again, up to probably age 22, 23, I'm not really thinking in those lines. And honestly, and I think there's a lot of folks' story, Trump was the great awakening. Like I'm now realizing, okay, I've been raised with certain values, even though I'm into new age stuff, etc. There were still certain things I was like, I'm not down for, right? I had certain belief systems and ideas. Like, I was an anti-abortion guy the whole time. Even when I was like, I never deviated on certain staples to be like, that's wrong. Yeah. That to me seems evil. Like that to me seems like a bad idea. Even on drugs, I still had, that sort of mentality to be like, that seems a little too far. So by the time I'm sobered up, 19, etc., I'm searching for an identity. That was sort of the path now to, I'm conservative. Now, I'm not, in the place where I'm actively seeking these things out until 2015, 2016, right? It was really the smear campaign around Trump and my position of anti-establishment. Like I already had gone, I'm a pothead kid. So I'm already not trusting the system and that whole thing. Still murky, still not seeing the world clearly, but there were still these sort of glimpses of light through. And so after sobriety, I'm in a place where there's clarity. I'm looking at the world around me a little more objectively. I'm still kind of got this outsider mentality, but now it's like, okay, I see my peers going off to college. I see some of them coming back year 1, year 2. I see them changing. I see the nature of our conversations changing. Now race is coming up a little more when it never did before when we were growing up, and so these things were, I was clocking my environment at that time.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, I bring it to Trump to say that was like the breaking of the mold because it's like everybody became politicized, right? Prior to 2020, it's like that was the great divide, this chasm. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, these people who are kind of sane, who are kind of rational thinking, are all of a sudden just like deranged. People again, I thought I was cool with. I'm not even. I'm still in a place where I'm looking up videos secretly. I'm like looking up Ben Shapiro, whatever it is, like on the low. I'm in coffee shops, hiding my screen.
Porn. It's porn.
Exactly. You were better off. You were better off in the Bay. Oh, Gary. I'm in the Pete's Coffee in the back. Like, what do I do? But I can't. I can't not. In Whole Foods, like, what are we?
I can see liberal parents, in California, but like, oh my God, I caught him watching Ben Shapiro again. I can't tell you, it's the worst thing ever.
We send him to therapy, like to the ranch.
Can't you do something normal, like drugs or something? I mean, we laugh about this, but it's true. It's like
yes.
like that's the worst thing. Like that will get you disowned as a child in so many different households and so many different areas of blue states and blue cities.
Brother, like when look, I should my story then unfolds like 2024 is when I came out what I call the conservative closet, right? We have our own closet we come out of. So up until that point,
nobody's accepting. Nobody's like,
no, absolutely not.
That is not a courageous step. You're going to have your whole family shoving you back in the closet. Like, get back in there. Get back in there.
Get your BLM flag back on. Like, look, the Bay Area is a strange place. Not now with the context I have, but like you're going through, Los Gatos, which is a wealthy suburban white neighborhood. Like everybody basically has some money, right? Yeah. And that, like, okay, I'm in Oakland and I'm not seeing BLM flags. I'm in Las Gatos and I'm seeing him on every other house. It's a mental illness.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm not picking this up until 2016. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, there's something deeper going on here yet. I haven't even looked back to, the Obamification of America and all of that. I'm just seeing where we are. I'm like, something has changed. Things are different. People are looking at each other different. The way that my, white friends are now talking to me is different. The tone is different, right? We're talking about scam this off the record for a second. It's like you hear the cadences are different, right? Yeah. It's like, where did you learn that cadence? Oh, it's such a shame. I'm like, where did you get shame? Where did you get that? All you've been through. What have I been through? I've been through what you've been through. We're in the same class. What are you talking about? And ironically, one of my closest homegirls, same one whose dad asked me, are you a Democrat, happened to be the one who sends me a message, like she's off in college, wherever she went. And she said, so I'm in I'm in feminist studies. This is the first time I ever heard of feminist studies. We're looking at it today and it's like, this is common knowledge. This is 2016, 2015. And I said, oh, okay, like, what does that mean? She's like, yeah, I'm a feminist. And I said, oh, I'm a maleist. I'm just saying it, like, we're joshing around. I never talked to that girl after that moment ever again. She blocked me, cut me off, silence. Her and her boyfriend of color went off and lived their merry life. And, I was ostracized from that. So that was my first sort of introduction to, even if you're the black guy, if you don't conform to this, then in their eyes, you're basically the quote unquote man.
Yeah, no. And I was actually watching a interview with Dave Rubin last night. He was talking about that. He was talking about when he first went to the Young Turks, and he was like, I was kind of like a Democrat, and he went to the Young Turks, and they would have, and he developed he had a radio show on XM radio at the time, and he ended up developing a relationship with David Webb. Have you watched his stuff?
David Webb, not Joe Webb, David Webb.
If you can't check him out, he's a black conservative, has a deep voice. He's like he reminds me almost like the black Alex Jones, but
okay,
but sane.
Okay, no gay frogs.
But he was talking about he was like, because he was explaining his journey from a liberal to a conservative essentially, and he was telling this guy's like, I was in the XM studio and Dave Webb was there, and we were walking through the hallways. I had my show, he had his. He was conservative, I was Democrat, liberal, and he was like, hey, Dave, what we should do is we should actually start doing a show together once a week, where it's like, we debate, right? You're the liberal, I'm the conservative, let's talk. So they developed this relationship and this friendship over a year, whatever it is, for a long time, but they're hanging out. Well, then he goes over to the Young Turks, and he was talking about that, and they end up having David Webb on, and they have him on, and David Webb leaves, and like all these people are sitting around talking about what an Uncle Tommy is, what a piece of garbage he is, what a race traitor he is. And Dave Rubin was like, that's when I realized, like, oh my God, you guys are racist, because you require a conformity of certain people within our political philosophy and of color that you wouldn't require of anybody else. And if that was being said the other way, but yeah, it's like, it's crazy that and we've seen how like Dr. Ben Carson and so many other people of color have just been destroyed by the left and attacked by the left. I won't say destroyed. I don't think they were successful, but they attempted to. And the way that they characterize these people, it is god awful. And I'm curious, like, going back, like you said, it sounds like your parents were Christians, and you grew up in a house of faith. Talk a little bit about that, coming from Zimbabwe over to the United States, and in the foundation that built for you, and then you kind of get out of church. It sounds like I went through a very similar thing. I grew up extremely UPC, United Pentecostal Church, showed me. And by the way, in Texas, I lived in Texas, in Beaumont, Texas, from the time I was 10. I moved from Detroit. So, but at the time, it was like literally church 5-6 days a week, and I went to the church school, and I hated it, and then ended up rebelling later on. But I'll tell you, looking back now, I don't even realize how much that affected me and how much that grounded me and how useful and important that was really into my 30s and now even in my 40s. Mm-hmm. So, talk a little bit about that.
So, to kind of set the groundwork, and I feel like the last few years have felt like a few decades, right? Like how much has changed culturally, etc. But to frame faith, Christianity specifically in Africa, there is such when faith gets a hold, when folks hear of the gospel and they hear of the salvation through they latch on, right, for their dear lives. Yeah. And they're transformed radically and they start to do things. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not this, I call it like avocado toast Christianity, the little some of the time, the little dibble dabble. It's not that. Like your life is now steeped. It is true. Like lordship is steeped in the African culture when it comes to faith. So for us, it's like there was no separation. Like yourself, you said 5 times a week, right? You're going to a Christian school. You're at home and everything is through the lens of scripture. So it was the very same sort of thing for me, which is it was ubiquitous. Like, of course we believe. That's it. And I think perhaps there might have been a danger or a chasm there, because then when it came to for me to really think through my faith, to reason for myself, right? To actually understand scripture, what is the gospel actually at its core? Those elements were secondary because it's just this is what we are.
Yeah.
I'm born into this, of course, right? This is like the 3rd generation. My great-great-grandfather was saved by missionaries and, life was radically changed. So it wasn't, like I had lived any other way. So that foundation, like you said, raise a child in the way of the Lord and they will come back, when they grow old, is true. Because even in my rebellion, I could look back and go, oh, okay, those were still subconsciously there. Like I said, I still had certain beliefs that no matter how much wokeness I was steeped in, it just wouldn't break. Right. I might feel guilty for doing certain things and running the streets or whatever. I was always the guy. It's like, well, at least I'm not selling the coke. Right. At least I'm just selling the weed. Relax. My boys are the ones that, there was still a barometer of well, I'm not doing the worst thing. I'm not. And then when I would jump that fence, of course, I'm now justifying, but there was still a conscience there the entire time through. And I believe that was developed through the earliest stages of my life. I don't think we can separate, those elements. Your parents are truly, like my boy Jay Wiz says, they're your first teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, again, it's wild to me because I look back and I see when I was rebelling and I saw my dad as my enemy, but it's like, I can think about it any day now. It's been 10 years since I was in that place and I still look back and I'm like, damn, he was right about everything.
Yeah.
Like everything, maybe it came to career or whatever. Okay, those things are more ubiquitous, but those things that, that's me to figure out. But when it came to principles, values, beliefs, the way to reason through things, he was right. And even when I was stating that, well, this God is not the true God, he was right about that too. It was just for me to come back, full circle and to honestly experience the world as it was and, to see evil. And I think those are the earliest glimpses when we talk about this woke identity, because, at first it was in my day in, day out life, it was subtle. Then I had confrontation with my brother, who we're not on communicating terms right now. He basically cut me off after the last election. These are the ways of the left. But yeah, I mean, again, all the way through.
Or older than you?
6 years older.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you would think it's like a child, the way, you know, these folks act with this conditioning, but no, this is the older brother.
Well,
yeah, smart guy, you know, medical school, etc. But that woke mind virus is a virus indeed. And so, yeah, you know, there was always an element of faith. Like I never got to a place where I was like, God doesn't exist. I couldn't.
Yeah.
That was like I had to lie to myself to a point where that level of cognitive dissonance just I couldn't handle that. So it's like, okay, God's real, but it's the universe, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, you're trying to worship the creation as opposed to the creator. Anything but like the true God who I needed to submit myself to.
You know, I thought it was funny that you brought up abortion earlier. I think we have a very similar backstory in that. I kind of right around 14, 15 years old.
Wow.
I never had a good relationship with my stepfather. And I ended up leaving, and I actually lived on my own really almost since I was 15. But I was big into punk rock and skating and all these things. And I remember somehow it started talking politics for the first time. And I remember somebody in my friends group, you know, was talking about abortion. And I'm like, yeah, like abortion, disgusting. They're like, what? You don't support abortion? Like, no, man. Like, I'm on board with all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But abortion, I think it's murder. I mean, I don't know how you can find anything else. But you know, it's kind of funny how like that was the thing, and then that was the first time that I saw a philosophical separation between me and these people that I thought that I was in, you know, accordance with mentally and ideologically. And I was like that was almost for me, even as a young kid, like, no, like that right there is the divide. Wow. And then that grew into something more. And I still wasn't political. I remember I never got political until, and this is going way back, but it was the election between Al Gore and George Bush. Yeah. And I started listening. No, not at that time. Here's what I knew. I was like, Al Gore was attached to Clinton. I don't know. I knew nothing what a Democrat was or a Republican was, but I was like, I just don't want anything to do with Al Gore. So let's find out who this George. And I was 20 years old at the time. So it was the first time that I was going to vote in an election. I had never voted before in a general election. In fact, I hadn't voted at all at that point. But I started listening. I was like, I need to find more information about this George Bush, about the election, all these things. That's when I started listening to Rush Limbaugh. And, you know, that was the first time that I felt some urgency for the state of the country and that I could get in there. But then I started listening to Rush Limbaugh and some other talk show hosts. And I was like, these are the people. This makes the most sense. And that was kind of like my conservative journey and starting point. But you know, it's just it's interesting to me, like there is something in your soul. And again, I think coming from a Christian, I just don't understand how people can sit there and say, you know, abortion's not murder. And to me, it's one of those things where I'm hoping that one day we're going to look back on the process of abortion in the same disgust that we look back at slavery.
Absolutely.
It is one of the most horrific. Yeah. I don't know, just completely against nature, like to rip a child from the womb and to kill it. And mostly out of inconvenience, right? It's like, no, I'm just not ready for a child. I mean, and then you look at the actual process of abortion and it just gets worse and worse and worse. It's not like it's just a horrific thing altogether. I mean, it is unbelievable. But, you know, I just thought when you said that, you know, that kind of resonates with me as well, because that really was like a moment of waking up politically for sure. And then started that process of me getting away from these people that were influencing me into a very bad and dark ideology. So
man, like our I just have to say our parallels are insane. Like at 10 years old, I was in Texas, and that's when you moved to Texas. at 14, 15 is basically when you stray off. That's exact age. I remember the first joint I smoked, and that was like day one of, of the less of my life. At 19 years old, I end up going getting sober. And so at 20 is like this identity shift. 22, 23 is the political shift, but that's insane. And these are the conversations I believe they don't want us having. Like when you look at leftists, they try to create this chasm, but it's like you and I have more in common than somebody who looks just like me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I grew up in Inkster, Michigan. It's a suburb of Detroit. I was the only white kid on the block, and there was no racial divide. And even going back to Texas, like I remember when I was 10 and finding out that we are going to be moving to Texas, and I had all these weird. I'm like, there's going to be rattlesnakes everywhere, and I'm going to Beaumont, Texas. It's like Western Louisiana, but even then, it's like. I remember people talking about, oh man, people in Texas and the South are racist or whatever else. And I saw none of that growing up. I went to a fairly large high school later on. I was on the football team, I was powerlifting, and I saw none of these things. And it wasn't until 2008. It was literally the Obama election where we saw this huge resurgence of racism.
Mm-hmm.
And really not even racism, but the identity politics, right? It's like I remember specifically, I was actually in Iraq during the Obama election. So I was in Iraq. We were on a combat tour over there, and I was completely against Obama because of socialism, because of the things that they were pushing. But I remember people were like, oh, the people that aren't voting for Obama, it's just because they're racist. They don't want a black man in the White House. And then later on, we saw that with Obamacare. Once they started pushing that down our throats, it's like, you just don't want Obamacare because you're racist. Like,
yeah,
nothing to do with it. But that's where we really saw them capitalize and exploit this identity politics for political purposes. And it just got worse and worse from there. And that turns into, BLM and all the other things that we went through. Because again, one of the things I was like, all right, we just lost the election. I was in Iraq. I was like, oh man, Obama got elected. This is terrible for the country. I just remember thinking, well, at least we can put the race thing behind us. We can quit saying America is racist. We've now elected, by a large margin, we have elected a black president. This is a dawn of a new era. You're not going to know America's racist anymore. Boy, was I wrong.
Oh, Gary, welcome to the rodeo. You have now entered the chat. Yeah. Obama was the beginning of the end. It's fascinating because when I talk to my dad now, again, he wasn't politicized, and now we have these conversations, and I'm in the space, so it's more open discussion. And also, being a man in business in the Bay Area, he's gone through his own battles, right? Of just dealing with that temperament and being a black man in faith and thinking to himself, like, what are these people on? And they always came to him, with the victim story. But yeah, Obama set the groundwork for this thing. Like the Marxists could not have found a better, a better introducer to these ideas, because some folks say, well, but Obama, he used to say things like, hey, black man, you can, and, yes, we can. That was the motto, and lift yourself up and you can build yourself. But that wasn't the sentiment. Those are the words he was using. That's not what he was pushing. Like in Africa, they know him as the pusher of the alphabet community agenda. Like that's what Obama is, in most of Africa. Mm-hmm. They despised him because he was trying to push his woke agenda to them. So they know. Right? Some people here are still disillusioned to what Obama actually was just because he's kind of charismatic.
Yeah, and speaking of Africa, that was the one thing. So in 2019, I started working for a job with the Department of State and started traveling to embassies and consulates. And I ended up in Africa a lot, which I loved. Been all over Benin, Liberia, been in Liberia multiple times, the Gambia. Man, folks, if you ever get a chance to go to the Gambia, it's a beautiful small country. The friendliest people I've ever met. Wow. And multiple other countries and cities around Africa. But like everybody that I ran into, loved Trump, and they absolutely hated when Biden came in office, and I was still working, doing that work until 2023. One of the first things that the Biden administration did, suddenly now I'm going on trips and I go overseas and I go to an embassy or consulate, and right at the top of that flagpole is the LGBTQ flag. And they were pushing this woke ideology, whereas, you know, one of the things that embassies and consulates do is obviously we're building rapport and we're building diplomatic relations with these different countries. We're helping them with development and aid and things like that. But what they were doing specifically under the Biden administration is they were attaching all the wokeness to aid. It's like, okay, fine, we'll give you $1 million or whatever it is. We'll build this well, we'll build these roads, we'll do this. We have all this money to give you, but here's what you got to do. You got to start hiring some percentage of LGBTQ. Good luck even finding people that are going to come out and admit that in a lot of these countries. But the other thing is, like, a lot of these countries are deeply Christian, and even if they're not Christian, they completely are turned off and disgusted by this. And then what I saw too is, like, people don't know this, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well. Like, China is all over Africa. China is coming in, and they don't put any strings. They're like, the United States over there, they're going to make you do all these things to build this road. If you just give us the permits, we'll build it, we'll pay for it. How about that? And they are completely taking over Africa. And the same thing with South America. I saw the exact same thing. South America, Central America, Mexico City. I mean, folks, half of Mexico City is owned by China. I was sitting with my interpreter one day in Mexico City. I was there for, I don't know, like 2 months. He's like, Gary, you see all these skyscrapers around here? He's like, almost all of those been purchased by the Chinese, and they fire everybody. They bring in boatloads of immigrants, Chinese, and they make
there you go.
They just make them work. And like the amount of influence and footprint that China has on this world that people don't even know. But my point is like the United States under Biden, they completely destroyed rapport all over the world. And the same thing in Middle Eastern countries. I was going to Jordan, and I would have these conversations with people, locals that worked at the embassies and consulate. And I would always find these, and I would intentionally, you know, build some rapport with people on the ground there. And I would have these political conversations. Like, I just want to hear your perception of what's going on. And these are the things that they would tell me is like, man, we love Trump. Like, the only time I didn't see that was in Europe. Right. So you go to some places in Europe and like,
don't get me started. Don't get me started.
But unanimously, when you were at the Department of State, all the people within embassies and consulates, almost unanimously, like, they're the leftist, most liberal whack jobs, and they're the ones out there representing our country. But you know, how did you see that? And I know, you know, you were.
I want to comment on the China situation because I got, like, my mom's basically whole entire side of the family still in Zimbabwe. And they say that, like, you walk down the average street and you have signs in Chinese. So folks, like, when you say that, most people aren't thinking, well, no, think about this. You go down your street, wherever you're living right now, you're in San Francisco, you're in St. Paul, whatever it is, and you're going down the street and you can't read half of what is written. There's an issue there. Right? If it was Spanish, people would cause quite a ruckus, right? The average American. So you're going through Zimbabwe, who is Shona speaking, little bit of Swahili, little bit of this, little bit of that, little bit of Ndebele, and you have Chinese signs, Chinese workers, like you said. You have infrastructure, and this is how I say they play a game that we need to learn from, because they play the 100-year game, right? They play a long-term game. They get you signed up on these contracts knowing that you can't put up your side of the bargain and that you're going to have to default on these loans. And then they're going to own everything they built anyway. You know? And so when folks are looking at the situation, like, as, you know, African leaders, and unfortunately, a lot of them are very corrupted individuals still to this point, unfortunately, but they're looking at this as opportunity. They're looking at this as free money. And then when you do have guys who are genuine, who really want the best for their countries, like you said, are you going to deal with the woke, or you're going to deal with somebody who's coming with no strings attached, not understanding it's a long-term game, which they also play with us. So yeah, what you're saying is spot on. Like I have a cousin who she got a direct basically link to China, for better for worse. She now teaches Chinese there. She's lived in China probably as long as she did in Zimbabwe.
Oh.
And why would they, allow for that relationship? Because they know what they're doing on the continent. Like it's simple as that. They're looking for conquest. Every single one of these ideologies, if it's Islam, etc., China is no different. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because people overlook it. And if they do see it, they go to Accra, Ghana, which was the last place in Africa I was. I'm like, they're here too. It's not, I thought it was just us and Zim or whatever. It's like, no, they're everywhere here.
Everywhere.
It's wild.
And again, why is that? Number one, strategically, like you said, they're thinking in 100-year terms while we're thinking the next election.
Yeah.
I was talking about this the other day. I was talking about how in 1963, Congress read the 45-step plan, the Communist Plan. And I went through that entire thing, and it's like they've accomplished all of it and then some. But that's the problem with, and the Democrats are the same way. The Democrats are thinking long term, and the Democrats are indivisible. And one of the reasons that the conservatives are so easily divided is, number one, it's our strength and our weakness. We are principled, and some of us don't know how to compromise at all and understand that, like, we can't get everything done in one election. Like the Democrats understand that. They're not thinking one election, they're thinking 50 years. And by the way, it's because they're heavily influenced by the CCP. And quite frankly, I think they are pretty much one and the same.
Yeah.
But, looking at the resources that Africa has, the lithium mines, that's the way that they're thinking. And the United States just doesn't have that foresight and is not playing the long game like that. And that's how we're going to lose. They're not going to beat us through a military invasion. They're going to wait till we're economically broken and so divided as a country that we end up having a civil war. And then they're just going to come in and start helping us out. And they're going to come in and continue to influence us. And they're going to come in and continue to invite large companies like Google and Facebook and all these other tech companies that are really already in the pockets and ideologically aligned with the CCP. And that is how, we're going to lose. And, speaking of politics, you obviously jumped into social media. Like what was the thing you were like, you know what? Because that's a big step. I know a lot of people out there don't realize this, but like deciding one day, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Kind of a big, and putting yourself out there and putting yourself at risk. Like what was the genesis of that?
Gary, it was by accident. I got myself into trouble I couldn't get myself out of. So this was November 3rd and November 4th, 2024. And I mean, I had created content. I've done this before, but I was in the world of marketing. I was speaking on personal development, all kinds of other stuff, right? But I posted a 15-second TikTok of me sitting, on a chair like this. And it was like a crying liberal sound bite, whatever it is. And I put at the top, when they realize you didn't vote for Skamala, something like that, right? Now, I'm just thinking, I'm like, this is the most benign thing I could ever put out. If you look at my content since then, that's like my most saintly sort of presentation since. Brother, when I tell you that thing, and we're about to get into this. When I tell you that thing broke the spirits of the people who were following me at that time, I got messages. I got unfollow. I can't believe you. You're a traitor to your own race. You hate yourself. Boom, 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 boom. 1,500 followers I lost in a 72-hour sequence on Instagram. They were over me. And like I said, also my brother in the same sequence of days decided that he was no longer going to speak to me as well. So most people will go, yikes, that was terrifying. I never want to do that again. But as a recovered people pleaser, it felt like the first taste of like genuine freedom, at least in a very long time. Like I felt expressed. I was like, wow.
Liberating.
Not only it was thank you. It was liberating. And I realized at that moment, I said, okay, this is a point of no turning back. Sometimes, we get accused, oh, you're bought off by, MAGA. Now we're bought off by the Jews and 7K or whatever. But it's like, truth be told, I was losing so much more. Even when I started speaking on Israel, like I lost even in the conservative space, even though my trajectory was like this. But I said, you know what? This is, like you said, liberation. This is freedom to tell the truth and nothing but that. And there's nothing else there to filter it. I want this all day long. And it's like, it's a high that you can't explain to folks.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you. Like when I look at numbers and if I lose followers, I'm like, man, good riddance. Good riddance. And at first, because again, I didn't speak out on Candace until December. And I've told the story 1,000 times, but it's like I genuinely thought I was going to lose 150,000 followers when I posted that video.
Wow.
I didn't care. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like I thought that she was such a threat and she was undermining the fabric of this country just through deception and lies and convincing so many people. And I also saw it for the psychological operation that it was. It was information op, the tactics that she was using. I knew it was, and I knew why it was effective. And I knew that like, I was looking around like, all right, when's somebody going to speak up against this? And there was a few, but I was like, we gotta address this. I don't care what happens to this channel. I still don't, but it's like, the way that I've looked at this, I spent a lot of time in the military, a lot of time overseas. And, when I got out of the military, like it pains me to have this divide between Americans, or used to. Like I don't want to fight with my fellow Americans. I want to find the common ground. And even at the beginning of this, even trying to highlight Candace, I took this approach where it's like, all right, look, I'm going to lay this out here. I'm going to try to be as diplomatic as possible, and people will see the light. And no matter what you did, no matter what you do, they're going to attack you. And I realize like there is no good faith on that side of the discussion.
Absolutely not.
And trying to pretend otherwise, trying to appease them, trying to pander to these people and pretend that they're not idiots, quite frankly. It wasn't working. And it's just a waste of time. Now, with that being said, anybody can talk to me. And if you have a good faith discussion, I have people that disagree with me on all the time. We just had one just recently that almost lost my mind. Listen to Eco. But, it's like if you believe, if you're a good faith, if you're arguing in good faith, I'll happily have that. And I want to find our common ground. I want to find areas that we can agree and then figure out where we diverge as well. And then we can address those. But when there is no point in having a discussion with anybody that's just going to flat out lie, that their whole entire intent is to deceive for clicks, views. It disgusts me. Like the idea of sitting up here and saying something that I don't believe in disgusts me. And the fact that other people I know are doing it. And I don't even want to give them any sort of, I don't even want to necessarily, I don't believe they're being paid by George Soros or by China. I just think they're audience captured. I think they are motivated by clicks and views. Just like anybody else. Like there's other people that are motivated by money, and that goes into it. But I don't even think a lot of these people, especially on YouTube and social media, what they get, money comes along with views. But I think the main thing that their motivation is, whether they realize it or not, is the affirmation through numbers and views. That's what they really enjoy.
So I got a buddy who came out of the Hollywood machine, and this Pops is a conservative in Hollywood producer. He ended up moving to Tennessee, and he said, I asked him about narcissists, and I said, it seems that Hollywood is a breeding ground for this personality type. And he said, brother, 75% of the people in this town are narcissists. And that's a lowball number, right? And so when you think of, like you said, this is a space where somebody could simply show up for no other reason besides to be seen, right? We've all seen it. It's like, what does that person do? They're just there. They just exist on the internet. There's no value add. As a matter of fact, they're likely destructive, but they're getting that feedback loop.
Yeah.
And I believe that social media has sort of fostered, it like Second Timothy style. There is this self-love that has come from it. I used to be in the self-love movement, like, personal development and love yourself more, etc. It feeds into that. It's an incestuous cesspool of this narcissistic, me centric, nothing else and nobody else matters. And so when you dilute that down to like the true sociopathic individuals in an environment like this, forget about it.
Yeah.
Like if Candace existed in a world outside of this, she would have found a way to be on radio or something else, wherever she could find that narcissistic supply. But if none of this existed, she would be the person on the side of the street yelling at, carriages, to get a little bit of attention. Like, she would still be that. But we have these platforms, and now it allows for this image of celebrity and influence. And so it's a very dangerous mixture. But I'm curious, because you said something right now. You said you could see the psychological operation, because when I first started talking about her, look, I got cussed out up and down by my same audience. It was about a year, maybe a year, a couple months back. And I was simply talking about this thing of, why isn't this woman willing to speak up about Andrew Tate and some of these guys, right? She seems to have this hypocrisy. And at that time, I was not on any sort of, there was no bandwagon. There was nothing. Most people still liked her. They still were like, oh, she's our conservative black girl, whatever, right? So for me, I'm just looking at the inconsistencies like I would, if you're my boy and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, why are you hanging out with these people and, giving these people validation and credit, and you're feeding? I'm just trying to understand. That's where that came from, the very, very first one. And that was the first time I realized, and that's actually when I started creating this thing of the cult of Candace. Like, folks can look this up all the way back. This ain't to aggrandize, but I created the cult of Candace because I was seeing the same thing here that I had noticed when I was in these psychological spaces and, getting into psychology and self-help, personal development. And I was like, wait a minute, y'all are acting like a cult.
Yeah.
Why are you defending this? Wait, you guys don't like the person I'm talking about she's connected with, and yet you'll defend her to the death about it. And so that was the earliest introduction. But you have, like you said, psyops, literally. And so what was it that you were seeing when you were like, this is like, she's using tactics? And also, do you believe that these tactics were intentional? Is she geared, like, or is this just because she's developed these characteristics since a kid, unconscious?
That's a great question. Before December 8th, I would have said that she just, look, some of these things, like, for instance, salesmen, whether you're a salesman, whether you're into marketing, you learn what convinces people to do you learn to manipulate people for good or for bad, right? Like, to some extent, preachers, and it's like some are more compelling than others. They learn what works and convinces people of what's going on. And I was kind of the same way when it came to Candace. I had followed Charlie Kirk for years.
Yeah.
Was a huge fan of Charlie Kirk. I knew who Candace, like, if you would have asked me back in September, are you a fan of Candace? I've been like, yeah. I hadn't been tracking what she was doing since she basically left probably the Daily Wire. That was my last kind of impression of her. So I just thought that same person just carried on. I thought, we're dealing with a consistent person. So going back to September, I'd been like, oh yeah, Candace is great. She's a conservative black woman. She is articulate. She's compelling. She's fun to watch. All of those things. So I had no idea what was going on with Candace. And when Charlie Kirk was killed, I took that very personally, of course, because some of the elements that were involved in this, number one, I wanted to investigate what's going on. I don't trust the government. I'm not going to accept any narrative. I don't care if it comes from social media, it comes from the government. I'm going to assess every situation independently, and then we're going to compare it to facts, evidence, logic, and then we're going to try to figure out with the limited capabilities that we have of what's going on. So Charlie was killed. Immediately, there was all these conspiracy theories going around. Like, it was just flooded. Like it was the palm gun theory. It was this, it was tunnels, it was camera guns, it was iPhone guns, it was shooters in 5 different positions. And so I just wanted to investigate this and figure out what's going on. And one of the first things I did, like within 2 or 3 days, is I remember the palm gun theory, right? You know, so we have Rick Cutler up there, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is the guy that actually killed him." And I was like, when Charlie was killed, I had also done very similar work with Butler, with the attempted assassination. And what happened in Butler, as we're investigating this and trying to figure out what's going on, all this footage that was out immediately got ripped down. Like you would see it, and you saw this with Charlie Kirk as well. So I knew that was going to happen. So the first thing I started doing is anything that popped up on social media, any footage, any video, I started ripping that off and storing it, right? And then I started, I already had some other context, and that we were kind of all doing the same thing and sharing our footage and trying to get a complete picture. And I was just going through all this footage.
Yeah.
So people were like, no, it was Rick Cutler with a palm gun. So that was one of the first videos I went out and debunked. I'm like, hey, this is why this didn't happen. And the thing that I thought was really strange was right from the get-go. It was like, I started seeing the comments, what looked like to me, either bots or morons. They were like, you're a Fed. I'm like, there's no recoil that happens. And there's no way for him to aim that device. There's we don't see any muzzle flash. The energy transfer that happens with Charlie Kirk is clearly, as someone that has seen a bunch of people shot, that does a lot of ballistic testing, the amount of energy involved, the energy dump that happens on Charlie, that cannot be explained by any pistol, especially a small, like 32 caliber, 25 caliber. Palm guns come in these small calibers. Like, that is not what we're seeing. And here's why. And I don't care if you believe all these other conspiracies. I'm just telling you based on what I'm seeing as a professional that does this and been doing it for a long time. This is not true. Like, that way we can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. We can, the process of elimination of this nonsense, we can kind of figure out what's going on. And the amount of resistance that I got on that right off the bat was very strange to me. And then it went to, a camera gun. The camera behind him shot Charlie. And he was actually shot from the left side or the right side or from this position or from this position. So I was like, knowing what I experienced at Butler, I was like, what I got to do now is I need to go to Butler. I mean, I need to go to UVU. So I went to UVU. By then, the charging documents were out. And long story short, we ended up doing a 3D model of the place. I was able to like put shooters in different positions on our 3D model. And it's like, you don't even have a line of sight from this. Like, there's no way to shoot Charlie from this position. That's dumb. Do you remember when they were talking about the Bush shooter?
The Bush shooter?
Yeah, it was a guy up on a it was the guy up on like the second level terrace off to Charlie's right. And there was a little patio on the side of that, and there's a bush there. And people were saying, oh, that was a shooter. This is a shooter that shot Charlie from that position. Well, the problem with that is once you get there, your perception video versus reality is like, Tinashe, it's like a throw from home plate to not even second base. Like, it's not even that far. And then you have 3,000 people that is in full view of anybody. Like, the idea that there was a shooter there
hiding in that bush. Was he the bush? What the?
And it's like a bush that was up on the patio, like a little like in a pot, like this big. It's like this tall. And like, this was a very predominant theory going around. And people were like, no, he was shot from the right-hand side. And there was some people that, pushing, and I didn't even necessarily say a whole lot on that. But once I got on the ground and I saw what was going on, I saw how easy it was to access the roof. Like, the on-the-ground truth changed everything for me. It's like, I'm looking at the charging documents, what's being alleged, and I'm like, there's nothing here that doesn't make sense. Everything that you guys are saying does make sense. So going back to Candace, it was about that time. It was definitely like mid to late November. I started becoming aware. I started hearing these other people were like, oh, Gary, what do you think about the tunnels underneath Charlie? And I was like, what what tunnels are you talking about? Like, oh, there's like these hatches underneath Charlie. And I'm like, where did that come from? So I start tracking down these theories. You know what? I know exactly where I first became aware. I was looking through Instagram. Do you know Natalie Jean Beisner? Have you seen her?
Natalie Jean Beisner. I'm probably, maybe by face.
So she was the first one. She was on to Candace early. And I remember going through Instagram and I saw her make this post against Candace. I was like, oh, wow. I can't believe she would say that about Candace. I remember like literally having like, can't believe she would say that. She's saying that Candace said what? So then I go to the episode that she references. And I'm like, sitting there aghast, like, you're really pushing this. And I do believe it was.
This is the tunnels. This is the first time you heard reference to the tunnels.
It was the tunnels. And I want to show everybody this, how stupid this is. Let me find some of these pictures. But yeah, so long story short, that's where I started looking at what Candace was saying. And I started seeing what is kind of commonly known as like truth laundering. And what she would do, it was very strategic. It was very intentional, where Candace is really good at confirming the non-material stuff. And the way that this works is like, you agree with this, right? Yes. You agree with this, right? Yes. This is established fact, right? We all know this. Everybody agrees with this. And then like, yes, this is a truth teller. And then they smuggle in some nonsense. And by then you're already convinced. You're already like, this is my person. I like this person. I trust this person. Yes, I agree with this. We know you were tricked by COVID, right? You know that was a huge operation, right? Yeah. You know that January 6th was ran by the government, right? Yeah. Guess what?
Remember Lyndon Baines Johnson? It's like, wait, how did we get back to the
CIA was murdered by the CIA, right? Yeah. Guess what? Charlie Kirk was also murdered by the CIA or whoever. The dude, the Freemasons. I don't even know where we're at this point. But I want to show everybody how dumb this is. So
we're at Gary now, by the way. That's where we're at. Now we're at Gary. Gary did it from his studio. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we see these utility hatches over here, right?
Okay.
It was kind of sold that these utility hatches were underneath him, but obviously we can see that these utility hatches are not underneath him. And what those are, as I went there, what those are is we have two controls for the water features. You didn't see it during this time, but there's normally a waterfall that's running that's very loud. And it was in there. So one of those controls the waterfall feature, and then one of those controls the actual just filling up the fountains around this. But the problem is that during this entire thing, number one, you have to understand there were people right here. Like the crowd could see these the entire time. And on this back one, there was actually a tripod and a camera set up to actually film the crowd and everything else. But she wanted us to believe that there was like some, I don't know, some midget.
I'm about to say, who's spitting?
But literally,
somebody, you said it before me. Even the bush, I'm like, who?
Yeah, like you just open these up, and there's nowhere to go. It's literally just a water spigot that you turn. Like that's what these are. So that was just one of many of these things that I was just like, this is so ridiculous. I can't believe what's happening. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And the next thing I know, we're talking about and then I started going through her content. And next thing you know, we're talking about French Foreign Legion. I'm like, oh my God, like where's the proof of this? And then she talked about how the French had put a hit on her, right? So the French, and of course we had a DJ in, one Israeli, because you always got to have an Israeli in there.
Of course. Yeah. The baguette bombers, what I called them. The baguette bombers.
They're eating kosher croissants. It's like, okay, give me some evidence of this. Like we never saw any evidence of any of this. And then the other thing that really stood out to me is like, she's like, I definitely reported this to multiple federal agencies. And I know, and then somebody was like, well, did you report it to the FBI? Well, I sent a text to somebody I know in the FBI and they left me on red. I'm like, hold on a second. You're not even giving us you're not even going to give us a screenshot of the email that you sent to these different federal agencies. And you were so afraid for your life that, I mean, understand the gravity of this. We have we have the French which is one of the most sophisticated, capable militaries in the world. Their special operations are unbelievable.
Wow.
And then on top of that, if we go back to the Israelis, again, the best military in the world, the United States, whoever's involved in this. If you have a state-sponsored hit team coming after you, there's almost no way to stop them, right? I mean, they're going to get you if they want to. Some civilian in the United States. And you are so unconcerned about it that you're not even going to send an email to the FBI. They're going to be targeting you, your family. None of it made sense. And then on top
but
of
Gary, because she was busy, there was a party that night. Remember?
Well,
remember there was a get together.
Dollywood that weekend. She went to Dollywood that weekend. But the thing about Candace is she does two things.
Yeah.
Number one, almost all of her sources, except for Mitch Snow, are anonymous sources.
Correct.
She gives us, from anonymous sources, she gives us unverifiable information with zero receipts. And that is a real dangerous recipe. That's one of the things that during COVID and the attacks on Trump with the Steele dossier and the Russia hoax, like we as conservatives agreed, we're not doing this anymore. You're giving, the mainstream media is giving us anonymous sources with unverifiable information. You can't have both. It's okay if you go with an anonymous source, but that information has to be verifiable. Or you give us unverified information, but you tell us who the source is so we can determine on our own the credibility and the validity of that information, and we can hold somebody accountable. But when you mix both of those, that is nothing but propaganda. That is someone lying to you. And when everything that they've pushed forth is based on those two things, it's a recipe for disaster. And the fact that Americans will accept it and are that gullible, I find it insanity.
That's the part that gets me, Gary, is, we've had insane people throughout history. We've had sociopathic or psychopathic individuals who are out for power. But I always look to the ones who go for it. And, it's when I first referred to these people as a cult, I was using this because I understood that there are cults of personality, right? We're in a different age. We're in a different era. You're no longer going to Osho's ranch, for the cult experience. You could be in your bedroom watching somebody for 8 hours a day, locked up with no sort of external feedback loop. And so for me, I hadn't realized where this was actually going. I just saw it on surface like, okay, they're willing to defend anything. And, I don't know if I've actually shared this in depth past the point of when it happened, but last year in July, you remember when Operation Midnight Hammer was set off, right? So you remember how there's the entire, we're going into World War III, blah, 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 blah. MTG coming out, Alex Jones, the usual suspects coming out talking about how Trump was throwing us into World War III. So during that time, I did a TikTok video on how Candace had been featured on Iranian news network. And so this must have been a day or two after I start getting DMs and folks are like, hey, Candace is looking for you. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Right. First person, I was like, okay, weird. Second person, I'm like, okay. And then finally somebody told me, hey, she posted something on her story on Instagram. Like she shared your video and she said there's a psyop against her, right? There's this campaign that's been put together in order to discredit her. And she's going to give $10,000, which, we're still waiting for $10,000 to whoever's going to give a tip for who has put this campaign together. And so that was my first real introduction to, oh, this woman is like cuckoo. This is different levels of insanity and manipulation. And then, of course, as a byproduct, like you said, it was, the first real example of I have evidence. And it's like, where's the evidence? Well, actually, there was a rabbi who was paying pastors in Bitcoin. And I heard, and then somebody sent an email, and then we heard nothing of it ever since then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, did anybody get the 10K or, and that was also when the seeds were planted for the 7K situation, just in case people are looking for the root system of that one.
Yeah. And I have received so many 7K. What happens now, I've actually got a raise, and once a week, an Israeli-Egyptian plane flies over my house and they just
Yes.
drop a bundle of cash. I got a little love card in there from Bibi Netanyahu himself. Every now and then, every now and then, a golden menorah just ends up in my yard, and I melt that down. And I mean, it's just been amazing.
I mean, I wasn't going to say anything, but you had on the kippah before we got on air, so
That's true.
There's some explaining to do. There's some explaining to do, Gary.
I'm gonna do that. Well, I've been planning on doing this. Where like I have a menorah sitting in the background, just a little. You just get a little bit, and people are like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a candlestick." And I turn it around, got a kippah. It's just so dumb. It's so dumb. But it's like, and that's the thing, is like, okay, look, give me the evidence. And they're like, oh, yes. You want evidence? You want evidence? You're paid by Israel. That's the answer. And
yes.
I just don't understand that retort. I don't understand that reply. It's like, okay, look, I don't care if it's me or anybody else. We should all agree that they're like, if we're going to talk this out, if we're going to have this battle, this discussion, this war of ideas, awesome. Like, we should have these vigorous discussions about whatever it is. Absolutely. But you don't get to just deflect and smear. Yeah. You don't get to just say, oh, well, Gary's paid by the government, he's paid by whatever else, so I'm just going to write this off. Like, no. Stick to what I'm saying, because number one, I'm not paid by Israel, not paid by TPUSA, I'm not paid by the government, I'm not paid by any of these people to say anything. Yeah. What you're hearing from Gary and what you're hearing from Tinashe is what we believe. And by the way, it's not popular. Like, and I don't care. But that's what it is. You can't answer the basic fundamental questions that we're presenting you. You have no argument, so you resort to slander, defamation, libel, smear campaigns, because that's all you got.
Absolutely. Do you believe that most of these individuals who are enraptured in all of this, do you believe they genuinely believe it?
Look, I think there's a huge mix of people.
Okay.
Like with
break it down. Right? Break down the mix.
I think, number one, I 100% believe, and would put a lot of money on it, that we are, when we have foreign adversaries that see something like this taking place, they have their finger on the pulse of the United States. They have the finger on the pulse of the conservative party. They hate Donald Trump. Yeah. So I do think a lot of this is pushed by foreign influence operations, whether that's bots, whether that's sock puppets, and I've talked about this a lot. So there's that end of it. And I do think probably around 20 to 30% of it is that. And then there's the people that, there are people out there that just believe these things. They have their worldview, and Reagan said it best. It's not that they're ignorant, they just know so much that isn't true. When someone says that their entire approach to this is, it's impossible for a 30-06 round not to exit Charlie Kirk, or it would blow his head off, or whatever else. Like, you start on that. And then even going back, like, most of these people, Tinashe, they were corrupted with brain rot, because these are the same people that were first convinced it was a palm gun. And then we realized, well, that's not true. So then they jumped to the camera gun. And then they jumped to the Bushman shooter. And then they jumped to this. They're willing to accept anything other than the official narrative and the Fed flop. So there's those, and now it's become a religion. Now it's become a religion. You can have, when you're accepting these other things, whatever it is. And again, I don't even know what Candace believes anymore. We've jumped shipped so many times. Like, tell me what you think. I've heard her say that she thinks the shot came from the crowd. Like, how do you stand? Anybody out there, if I'm standing in a crowd and there's 15 people around me, do you think that I can fire a gun and like the people around me don't know that I fired the gun, you moron? I don't care if you have a suppressor. I don't care what technology you think that's being used. The people around you are going to know that a gun was fired. Even if you have a suppressor, folks. If you think a suppressor goes, you're a moron. You don't even know how these things work. You don't understand that there's still a muzzle blast, that there's a high energy output. You don't understand that there's still sound involved. So, and then like the exploding mic theory, like, which is just completely defies physics. Is someone that has used explosives through an entire professional career for breaching, for built shaped charges, you name it. Like, I've used a lot of explosives. There's this thing called Newtonian physics. All right. We have an equal and opposite reaction. You have to. I don't care what kind of technology you have or whatever else. You're telling me that Charlie was killed and that we have an explosive device that created enough energy to kill him, but it doesn't have the same equal and opposite energy to either create any sort of burn marks on his shirt. It doesn't even leave his shirt. It doesn't tear his shirt. Like, if you believe that, you might as well say aliens came down and killed him from space. It is as dumb as that.
Don't give her ideas though, Gary. Don't give her ideas, because that one right there, you just planted a seed.
It's
wow.
It's wild. So, going back to this, and you were asking me earlier, do I think that she just kind of learned these techniques? And I do think that a lot of people can learn these, can learn techniques that make them successful at doing some of these things. I actually was pulling up I wanted you to see the Bushman shooter.
Okay.
Let me find this real quick.
Like Dinklage or something.
What's that?
Dinklage in the bush. Wee man. That's crazy.
A little wee man. Here we go. I want to show you what this is. All right. So this is where we're talking about. Right above, just to the right of Charlie's head. You see this little bush up there?
Let me see.
You see the little
okay. Yep.
So that was where they said, and by the way, there's not even a line of sight from that spot to where Charlie was sitting. You can see it's kind of way back there, and by the time he sits down,
how do you get an angle? I'm sorry, wait.
But
that's
regardless,
basically behind or parallel to the kiosk.
Yeah. And regardless, like, what people don't understand is, like, there's all these people across from him that are on a second floor that are basically looking at that. And I'm telling you, folks, unless you just have the weakest, you could literally throw a rock to that point. I know it looks a lot further than it is.
Yeah.
It's like 30 or 40 yards. It's not far at all. And the idea that somebody would be there and the rest of the 3,000 people don't see them is just retarded. There's no other way to even describe what that is. But, going back to Candace, I didn't see any sort of, well, number one, here's my thoughts, and I don't like to get into motivations because we don't really know people's minds. I think all people are motivated differently by different things.
We're just asking questions, Gary. We're just asking
questions. I do think that Candace is generally, this started off as generally as like revenge, right? And spite, jealousy, narcissism, all those things. I don't think there was like some big grand conspiracy around Candace. Now, what I will tell you is, when something is useful, whether it's useful to a political party or to a foreign adversary, that's going to undermine, and people have to understand, like, how important Charlie Kirk was and how important TPUSA was. Again, Charlie Kirk was attributed with 2.5 million votes.
Yeah.
We beat Kamala Harris by 2.3 million votes. So if you want to destroy Trump, if you take out Charlie Kirk, the next target that you need to take out is TPUSA. And there's a lot of, I don't care if we're talking about China, Iran, Russia, the European Union, none of the left, none of these people want Trump to be successful. None of these people want us to win the midterms so that we actually have a larger majority, so that we can push legislation through that we need to get pushed through. And they sure don't want him to win, or MAGA to continue in one form or another in 2028. I didn't see a whole lot of sophistication of other than just basic techniques that are that most people will use, whether they realize it or not, to convince people to present compelling arguments. Truth laundering is very common that most people use, like, even whether you believe it or not. It's like, this is true, this is true, this is true. It's the same idea, like, oh, because we believe it's established fact, even though it's not really not. JFK was killed by the U.S. government, then Charlie Kirk was also killed by the U.S. government. That's fallacious on its face, but it works, right? I hear that all the time. Oh, next thing you're going to tell me is that JFK wasn't killed by the U.S. government. I don't know if he was killed, but that has nothing to do with this. Like, we have to assess each situation independently and, compare the facts, the evidence of this case.
How much is that lazy thinking or a lack thereof? How much is it, a symptom of the times, as far as people just kind of want to rush through things? People aren't necessarily invested in actually learning, illiteracy, things of that nature. And how much is nefarious?
I think most of it is, it's a default thinking, right?
Yeah.
If this is true, then this is true. If the government lied to us about COVID, then they're lying to us about this. If the government lied to us about the 2020 election, they're doing this. But what people don't, what I think, so I think that makes up a lot of it. And then there's just people that don't know what they don't know, but they think they do. Whether we're talking about politics, whether we're talking about how cameras work, whether, when people are telling me, oh, I saw a bullet come from this direction on the camera. Like, you can't see bullets. I don't even care if they're subsonic. If you're using 30 frames per second, you're not going to see a bullet flying through the air. They're like, oh, well, we saw a bullet get captured in the air at the Butler rally. Yeah, that was a professional camera. It was like 1/8,000 shutter speed. And then what did we see? We saw a streak. You're telling me, and what you're seeing is either just an artifact or you're seeing a fly. I got a bunch of videos of showing how many bugs were actually flying around Charlie Kirk during that event. You think about it, it's like there's water and there's grass and a sea of concrete. Like, of course, there's going to be a bunch of bugs, and it's it's a warm time. But I never saw a whole lot of sophistication coming from Candace until the December 8th Fort Huachuca story.
Okay.
She goes in, and I think somebody wrote this for her. She goes in and she starts off with the hero's journey. She starts off with the story of divine inspiration. And then she talks about the protagonist, which switches back between her and Mitchell Snow. And then she lays out, she's like, everybody remember, look, we know this is true. And she shows all this video footage of these drug busts on the border back from the 90s. And she's preparing, priming, and conditioning the viewer to believe this thing. This is divinely inspired. We had this protagonist that was being attacked by the government. As a matter of fact, he had to go into hiding. It's like the government threw him under the bus, but they also put him in witness protection. And I was like, no. But the level of sophistication that went into developing that whole storyline, I think came from outside, and somebody that was much more sophisticated than her created that. That had every earmark of disinformation, professional disinformation and psychological operation. And somebody wanted people to believe that the U.S. government down at Joint Task Force Southern Border was conspiring, the U.S. military was conspiring to kill Charlie Kirk. And she starts off that podcast with, what I'm getting ready to tell you is going to leave no questions that you basically, the U.S. government, I'm going to give you such evidentiary information that the U.S. government has no choice but to come out and admit that they had a hand in killing Charlie Kirk. That's how she starts off. That's what that entire story is predicated with. So, like, that was one of the times that I think that somebody much more sophisticated had a hand in this, and whether that was a foreign adversary, was it a political adversary, I don't know. And these are, I'm not saying that Candace is conspiring with a foreign adversary. What I am saying is that you will get people put in your circle that that suddenly you're like, oh, let me help you do this. Let me help you do this. Whether that's a producer, I don't know. But something happened there that indicated to me a level of sophistication that was beyond anything I'd seen before. And quite frankly, almost ever since. I've never seen that since. She still uses a lot of different persuasive tactics and information laundering and never giving you proof. Like, we got proof that Mitch Snow was there. I always thought that Mitch Snow was there. What we didn't get proof of, just like with every one of our other stories, are the material claims. We had no proof or evidence that Erica Kirk was there. We had no evidence that Brian Harpel was there. We had no evidence of an actual meeting taking place at all, much less a meeting that specifically was, this conspiracy for the U.S. military to kill Charlie Kirk on U.S. soil, which I find utterly offensive to begin with. Like, to sit there and to say that there are colonels and people in the military that are going to, like, the military has no jurisdiction domestically. It's not something that they would do. And if the government was going to do this, they wouldn't use Joint Task Force Southern Border. Like, we have like legit black operations people that they don't kill Americans typically, but if they were going to use this, if that's what they were going to do, it wouldn't happen at Fort Huachuca. It wouldn't be a conventional forces military unit, which is what they are. Like, they're not even special operations down there. So the whole thing was dumb on its face, and just. I
want to dig in. I want to dig into this aspect of the anti-American spin on things, right? Because when I'm coming up, I remember falling into some of these rabbit holes, and I think my first exposure was Alex Jones. Back when the InfoWars was like a juggernaut, right? It had the entire market when it came to conspiratorial sort of thinking. And I remember at that time forming these opinions about things I knew nothing about, right? Including September 11th, including, JFK, etc. And it's interesting to me because the finger always pointed back to the United States.
Yeah.
And I think this probably happened in the last 2 years where I finally sat with myself and said, okay, why is it that you believe that most of the worst things that ever happened to America in-house, or at least on American soil, Pearl Harbor, assassinations, etc., why do you believe that it was the American government? Like, why do you believe that? I said, well, because I was told that. Yeah. And so I said, wait, so who would have a vested interest in you having that anti-American sentiment? Because I'm looking at leftism and I'm like, they hate America. These are people who hate their own country. They want to see their own country destroyed.
They do.
Right. And if I had a conversation with them about what terrible things America has done, they would share the exact same sentiments as I've been told by, the Alex Joneses, et cetera, of the world. And so, as you bring this up, why would it not be your adversary to be planting these ideas? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the people who are caught up in this stuff, do they not understand that, wait, so you're somebody who's capable of thinking, okay, a nefarious actor could come in and have some sort of, underhanded approach, but you can't think that maybe you're being duped in order to destroy yourself.
No, you're exactly right. And this is like the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if communism would have been pitched to us by, let's say, Russian USSR radio or media, nobody would accept it.
Facts.
But if communists can infiltrate our academia, schools, universities, and we can slowly, you hear it from other Americans, it becomes a much more compelling argument. And then they pitch it in a way that sounds great, because in theory, communism, socialism, especially people that already have a victim mentality, it's easy to sell. Let's go back just to Donald Trump. So for his first election, his first term, what we heard was he was ruled by Russia. Putin was controlling him. We had the Steele dossier. It was Russia, Russia, Russia. He's a puppet. This was coming from Democrats, and it was coming from unconfirmed sources with unverifiable information. And then we saw the other part of this. I want people to pay attention to this. For instance, when we had James Comey trying to push the Steele dossier and trying to get a FISA warrant to spy on a U.S. presidential candidate. What they did was they gave that information to the New York Times. And then as a validation, when they came out with an article from the New York Times, what the FBI did to get that FISA warrant is they said, oh, and look, it's confirmed by the New York Times. So now we have a self-licking ice cream cone. We see the exact same thing happening with Candace Owens. She puts stuff out, and then we see her surrogates like confirming it. And so now we are making that information. But going back to Donald Trump, most conservatives did not buy into the Russia hoax. We saw it for what it was because it was coming from our political enemies.
Correct.
Now we're like, hey, you know what? The government has abused us. We have January 6th. We have the Russia hoax. We have COVID lockdowns. Yeah. We have mandates. We have the Hunter Biden laptop that we're lied about. And then we have a president pardons his son across multiple crimes. We're like, we don't trust the government anymore. So we need to get Donald Trump in here. So then we get Donald Trump in here. We change out the FBI for the most part. We change out a lot of the obviously the cabinet members. And now they're like, hey, that whole thing wasn't effective because it was from the outside. Let's get some of the people on the inside, the Trojan horses, the Candace Owens, the Owen Schroyers, the Ryan Mattas, the you name it, Tucker Carlson's. Let's push this whole thing that now it goes from Russia to Israel, because they already know that there is a vulnerability in the conservative party when it comes to Jews and Israelis. Like it's kind of dumb when you research it, but now it's being pushed from our own party. So now we believe it, and now we can fracture it. But it's coming from the same people, whether that's outside influence, foreign adversary influence, and or political adversaries. It's the exact same trope. It's the exact same talking points. It just went from Russia to Israel. The Epstein files are literally like the Steele dossier for this one. It's like, oh, the Epstein files, like, but nobody can tell me what crimes were committed in the Epstein files, who did it, how do we tie it to them? You have all these people, but we continue to say, oh, the Epstein files. Never mind the amount of sex trafficking and child trafficking that were happening under Biden because our borders were completely open.
Correct.
You know, you can look at anything coming from the inside, even though that was planted by our adversaries, is going to be more compelling, and people are going to believe it compared to if it was, you know, if Democrats were saying the same thing that now we have the woke right. And that's why, like, you don't even hear the Democrats coming out and talking. They don't
absolutely not. They don't have to.
They don't attack Tucker Carlson anymore. They don't attack Candace Owens.
Absolutely not.
No, it tells you everything that you need to know.
I mean, you know, after this Massey situation was it was revealing, to say the least, right? You have Hassan posting the same message as Nick, posting the same message as Owen on the same day.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to look at this as organic, as there is no relationship, as the horseshoe theory is nothing but Jewish conspiracy, right? And that this is America first. Like, they have done a literal hell of a job. I will say that, right? These leftist tactics, because you brought up something about organizing, and you're right. That's something I've noticed from the Bay Area is these people know how to come together. If it's for a protest, if it's to put a committee together, they do it. They're willing to put aside whatever else it is in order to go after this common enemy that they have, right? And unfortunately, for some reason, I think, and this is this sort of bird's eye perspective, especially now having traveled, and you've done more traveling than most people ever will, is we are not susceptible to the thing that is happening to anybody else. The thing that has protected us, number one, has been our faith in God, right? And us building our foundation on his principles. And because we allowed that to slip out the way, then the thing would deteriorate. And also because we have been living up to Thomas Jefferson's words of eternal vigilance, right? To preserve our freedoms. Like, somebody had to fight. You had to go out and fight for it. We enjoy the luxury and whatever it is, but we think it's just a given, as if there aren't people from day one trying to completely obliterate this thing.
Yeah.
From every single angle. And we think, well, you know, but it can't happen here. And I'm like, brother, please go and look at the continent. Please go to Africa and see what jihad is doing there. Please go and see what it's doing in Europe right now. Oh, well, we're different. Why are we different? If we allow to the same devices, then the same thing will happen to us.
No, I couldn't agree more. And people do need to see what's happening, understand the threats that we are under. And anybody that's convinced by the idea that all of this trauma from the American people of our distrust from government, it's not just, but the most recent thing and the people that were most affected by is what happened under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Completely open borders, getting flooded, being lied to nonstop by the government. Look, I do think that there is a government conspiracy behind the attempted assassination of Donald Trump when it comes to Thomas Crooks. I think that at a minimum, resources were intentionally withheld to protect him, while at the same time creating such rhetoric and pushing such rhetoric that Donald Trump is an existential threat, that out of 300 million Americans, when you're saying that he is literally Hitler, he's a racist, he's a pedophile, whatever, like there's going to be somebody that steps up to the plate and becomes the hero. And Thomas Trump, there could be more. I don't know if we'll ever find any evidence of that or not, but that's my suspicion. So, but if you can be convinced that all of that, and the answer now that we have Donald Trump in office, where he has shut down the border, we have seen an unbelievable low amount of crime or crime stats being lowered. We see fentanyl deaths being, done a good job. Like dozens of thousands of American lives are being saved because of the policies that Donald Trump has in place. And you can get into, the Iran war, and I understand that people have legitimate concerns about that, and I grant you. But when you compare and contrast what they're offering compared to what Donald Trump has in place and MAGA offers and our vision for the country, it's not even close to me. And when you tell them, hey, you know what? The way that we fix this is we let those people that abuse the American people's trust back in power. I know you do not have the country's best interests at heart, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, when I look at some of these fragmented pieces and I look at somebody like Candace, because like it is really, they're out for themselves. I already seen some of them eat their own, etc. She seems to be somebody who is on a relentless one-way path, right? Like she will burn bridges. She will one day be sitting with somebody and the next she's doing an op-ed on that individual. Because I think she's like self-destructive from the inside out, right? That's what I see. And I think it's going to crash and burn. But I'm so curious because I would love to get into, Erica, because I know that one set you off. Like a lot of us, it's like, look, you can play the game. It's like you can, pick on somebody your own size per se. Like, okay, you want to play that game, go ahead and get into military and we'll talk military, get here. But now you're talking to a mother. We oftentimes say widow, but that is still a mother who every morning is having to make breakfast for the kids, get them out the house, to take care of business, take care of household. Oh yeah, and your husband's no longer here because he was killed. And then now you're having to deal with the whole world lying on you because of these sociopathic individuals, right? And some even psychopaths who I believe are more dangerous than some of us are given credit for. But when you look at the outcomes of this, because, you've been involved in things like most of us as civilians will never understand. We've never seen it. We can't comprehend it. You've been in the midst of literal warfare, and then you've seen how, strategy works, and then you've seen psychological operations, etc. Where does this end? What is the, not her end game? Where does this go if it continues down this path? Like, what is the danger that you're actually seeing?
Yeah, the danger is that we condition the American people to believe things, and this is where I feel like this is an existential threat. Not Candace, but the vulnerability of the American people. And what I thought was happening in November was oh my God, we have all these people that are believing this nonsense, and I need to speak out because this can't continue. Because if Americans can be duped by this, and this is not that sophisticated, to me, it's very transparent of what's going on. If they can be duped by this, they can be duped by anybody, especially if we get somebody in there, that if we get another operation that takes place and it's more sophisticated, and we have somebody that is more compelling, more believable, that is more charismatic, like they can convince voters of anything. And that's the thing, is like, if we adopt the idea that as Americans, we will believe things by unverified sources and unverifiable information, we are susceptible to anything. And our country will be destroyed. So, that's, and I'll be honest with you, even though I felt compelled, and I mean this, like I felt the call of God. And I mean this seriously. Like I felt like, hey, Gary, you have to speak. And I did not want to. I was like, like I'll let somebody else fight this fight. I don't need this type of heat. I knew the potential dangers. I even talked to my wife about it, and she was like, this could affect us in some really negative ways. And it has. And but regardless, I was like, I'm going to speak out on this. But even the way that I thought the trajectory was going to go is like, all right, this is going to go on for like another month. Whether I speak out or not, it's going to go on for like another month. People are going to wake up and see, like, she can't prove anything. People are going to be like, you know what? This has been going on now for 6 months, and we have no evidence of anything that you've said. We have this manufactured suspicion around Erica, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I thought it would burn itself out. I had no idea that what it would dovetail into is suddenly now we have Tucker Carlson, we have Megyn Kelly, we have Nick Fuentes, into this like weird Groyper woke right movement that is where they are combining forces to attack Donald Trump, MAGA, the way that they are. So as far as the trajectory goes, the good news is, and to me, the Massey election was kind of like a bellwether, like an indicator of, I'm always trying to figure out, like, there's the perception on X. And if you go by the perception on X, is like 90% of the people out there believe Candace Owens, 90% of the people out there believe that Donald Trump is the worst, that, he has a failed presidency, he's not getting anything done, he's controlled by Israel. But we know that's not correct. So then there's reality versus perception. And like trying to figure out the delta in between those is, to me, Massey was a great example of this. He was beat handily. And I don't think they're going to be as effective as we think they are. But I will say, when it comes to the midterms, you don't have to be that effective. Like midterms, when we're talking about these House and Senate seats, like they're won and lost by extremely small margins. If they can demoralize enough conservative voters, if they can reduce voter turnout by a couple percentage points, that could be a huge deal. And that's what they're trying to do. And ultimately, what I think their goal is they want us to lose the midterms. And by them, I think foreign adversaries and political adversaries, they want us to lose the midterms. If we lose the midterms, Donald Trump is going to be a lame duck president for the next 2 years. All they're going to do is, number one, he's going to be impeached, especially if the Democrats take the House. He's going to be impeached. They're going to be able to, all of these people, the left, the woke right, are going to say, look how feckless this president, look how he didn't get anything done. He got nothing accomplished. They're going to demoralize the right. The left will win the 28 election. What I think the goal here is that the woke right wants to replace MAGA. The opposition party is always going to be more popular. In the same way that MAGA kind of replaced the standard Republican Party, the mainstream Republican Party, that's what they want to do. And their platform, essentially, to me, is just the globalist agenda repackaged for the right. They're going to run on, extreme isolationism, which is one of the, like, you think that us constantly going overseas is a problem, and it can be. It has some negative side effects. But extreme isolation, isolationism versus interventionism, is by far the worst. If we pull into the United States and we allow China, Russia, and all of our adversaries to do whatever they want in the world, we're done. We're done. Like, I don't think people understand that. Like,
Yeah.
we have some discussions to be had on interventionalism? Absolutely. Do I think that we should be creating wars? Am I completely against what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan? Yes. But not every war is Iraq and Afghanistan. Matter of fact, the war was Iraq and Afghanistan. We've never done anything like that before. And, you know.
But that relative comparison thing, like you were talking about, right, is they say, well, look at this. It must also, Iran is the same thing.
Yeah.
With no sort of delving into the actual facts. And then you'll have a man like you who was there, and then they'll go, oh, yeah, but you don't get it. We know because we're on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's the part. I'm sorry. That really gets me. I'm like, you look, you are an expert in a field, and you will explain this. You will say words that they have never heard before, and they will still have the hubris to say, oh, yeah, but but I saw what I saw.
Yeah. Well, and that is, it's like this default thinking, going back to what we're talking about in this association. Like, for instance, we've turned the phrase regime change. Like, when you say regime change, that automatically means 20-year war. That means, occupation or whatever else. That's not what regime change is. You know what regime change is? It is Venezuela.
Yeah.
It's what the U.S. military has the capabilities of doing, and what we've done in the past, because a lot of defense contractors in the military-industrial complex wanted to prolong a occupation because people were making billions of dollars. A lot of people were getting rich off that at the expense of American lives, by the way. I think it's evil. I think it was destructive. That wasn't Donald Trump. Like, quit saying it's the same. Like, Donald Trump is the same as Obama and George Bush. It's some silly, lazy default thinking. Yeah. I think, and you talk about a prolonged war, we allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. Not only are we going to have a prolonged war in 10, 15 years, but we're going to have it with a nuclear armed Iran that is a homicidal, genocidal, suicidal, regime. And like, we can't allow people like that for the sake of our children and our grandchildren. So if we can take them out, and we can arm the people, and we can do a regime change without investing, 20 years and a lot of American blood, we should. That's a good investment, and it doesn't take that long. And it may not work, right? It may not work, but it's definitely going to set them back. Like, you can't determine an outcome once you get into complexity of these geopolitical wars. I mean, you just can't. But I think we have the capabilities of doing that, and I believe in our country, and I believe in our president. And just like Charlie Kirk said, I don't want new wars. I don't want us to have extreme interventionalism, but at the same time, I trust our president. Our president has information that you don't have. We have the entire all of the intelligence agencies out there that are collecting information and bringing it to the president. They're processing that information. You have all of DOD in the Pentagon, some of the smartest, biggest brains on the planet that are presenting contingency operations that have all of these things in place. And when people say, oh, well, he doesn't even have a plan for this. Like, do you know how dumb that is? They have literally thousands of plans. They literally have a flow chart of like, oh, this happened. Whoop, we got the plan for that. Boop, boop. There you go. This is your 3 options, Mr. President. What would you like to do for this specific variable that we already foresaw coming? So to sit there and say dumb things like he didn't have a plan, and you look at what took place. We took out Venezuela. We now took oil away from China through Venezuela. Like, this was strategic, folks. And then we just hammered Iran for a lot of different reasons. And then we took out their entire Navy. We took out their Air Force. We took out most of their ballistic capabilities and surface-to-air missiles. We took all that out, and now we move our Navy in to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And we're still working through that. That's not an overnight process. But this was extremely strategic. This was extremely well planned. And if you can't see that, it's because people that don't know anything that they're talking about are telling you BS. And with all that being said, you can still disagree with our actions over there. That's fine. But just don't lie about it.
Correct.
That's my, it's like, don't.
And if you're not willing to do the due diligence, then shut up.
Yeah. 100%.
That's also an option. It's like, hey, I have no idea what's going on. They didn't even know what a Strait of Hormuz was, but they have an opinion. For me, I go, look, I don't know, so I'm not going to delve into that. Let me ask somebody who does know, who maybe somebody who actually understands these dynamics, right? And again, most of them I call them the basement dwellers. I know it's not all of them are literally in the basement, but it's the same temperament where it's like, what have you done? Who are you? What have you been willing to go out and actually research? Like you said, they heard the bush from, Queen Scamdis, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's a bush. You don't even know if there's a bush there. You're just listening and going with whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, it is fascinating, but I know we're deviating a little bit, and I did want to touch base with Erica and what's, the attack there. But just because we dabbled in this, brother, how do we build back, and is it possible, patriotism? Because the America hatred from within, to me, seems like the biggest problem, right? If we loved our country, all of us in unison, and most of us want what is best for our country, then we're not going to allow certain things to happen to it. But we have, not just on the left, but we're now even seeing on the right, the America first. I'm like, y'all don't even like America. You guys spread the most propaganda about America and what we've done. You might as well be talking the colonizer BS.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we do that is exactly what you and I are doing. And I hope that other people out there watching this, if you're watching this, you're not a observer. Yeah. You're a participant, whether you want to be or not. And I hope, all of my content is a call to action. Like, folks, you got to get out there and fight the same way that they're fighting and they're winning. And that is getting out there and pushing back against lies. Look, I do not trust the government ever. Don't trust the government. All right. I think that the larger the government, the less trustworthy, the more room that we have for corruption. We have a massive government that I would love to see reduced in size. But the government is like my family. Like, I'm extremely hard on my kids, and I am the most critical of my kids because I want them to be successful, and I want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And it's my job to hold them accountable.
That's good.
But if you are on the outside of my family and you're lying about my kids, I'm going to come at you. And it's the same thing. It's like, we need to hold the government accountable, but we also can't allow formal line influence and political actors that hate our country just lie about what's going on and twist things. And, I think that it's just a great example of, I don't trust the FBI, and I don't trust necessarily even law enforcement sometimes. But when it comes to these charging documents that we have with Tyler Robinson, I've went through these. I still look at them critically. And the more information that comes out, I compare and contrast, like, okay, is the FBI, the Utah SBI, are they lying? Can I find a lie in here? So far, I haven't been able to find a single lie they presented. Now I look at the opposition, the social media. Let's see, we have palm gun. That was a lie. We have 3 different camera guns. That was a lie. With the Bushman shooter, we have the tunnels. We have multiple different shooters. We have all this information that you have to admit objectively that's a lie. So when I say, should I trust these social media people, or should I trust the government's case, which, by the way, it has to be presented. Like, we are going to be able to see and take account for the evidence that they present. You don't present any information over here. And I've caught you in multiple lies. The government lies, but guess what? When the government can lie, but social media is like, hey man, hold my beer, watch this. I will lie to you 10 times more, because you have this default, you have this default idea that the government always lies. Now I'm never going to trust the government at all, even when they're telling me. The government always lies and empty the jails. Like, are there times when the government doesn't lie?
Yeah.
Like at what point do you say, hey, this? I mean, and again, you can go through these charging documents and you can look at the evidence. When Candace Owens tells you that Tyler Robinson was never on campus, she is lying to you. Yeah. You will see Tyler Robinson on campus. They have cell phone data that puts him there. They have DNA evidence on the roof, on the screwdriver on the roof. They have his palm print. That you are going to see such clear surveillance footage when the trial comes that anyone that's telling you that he wasn't on campus, they're lying. And by the way, some of these things that people are bringing up to say, oh, this is proof that the government's lying. The defense is even talking about that. And there's a reason for it, because it's BS. You were taking a information gap that you don't know.
Yeah.
That information is unknown, but because you don't know, you're filling it with BS because either you want to believe it, because it's profitable, because you're on a grift, you like the views, whatever it is. But when Gary and Tinashe come on here and we just tell you the truth, that's not nearly as fun.
Yeah.
That's not nearly as cool. People aren't going to share that because it's just not as sensational. And that's fine. But, you know, and going back to Erica, Candace did you know what? Yesterday we did a show and there was a lady from San Diego on here, and she was talking about the fact that she is a Christian that converted from Judaism.
Okay.
She was telling about how her mom, who I believe she said she was actually a Democrat, but she's Jewish, and she watched the Charlie Kirk Memorial, and she literally called her daughter up and said, like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's so sad. Watched this objectively and came away with whatever." Right. So,
yeah.
And I think most people that their minds aren't corrupted would watch that memorial and see it for what it is, and see that there is a woman that's up there that is a victim of what took place with Charlie Kirk and is doing her best to pick up the torch that her husband started with and continue moving forward, and to continue and ensure that his legacy is preserved, and that the work he accomplished while he was alive continues to be accomplished and completed under her watch. Or you can have this artificial suspicion, this manufactured suspicion, starting out with like, "Oh my God, I don't like the way that Erica cries. She cries too much. She doesn't cry enough. She's not good on camera. She said this. Oh, they said that he had a steel neck." All of this dumb things. And then you go and you watch that, and you already are watching it without any objectivity. You're looking like, "Oh my God, do you see her sparkly pants?
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at those fireworks." Charlie had fireworks in like people were saying, "Oh God, look at this 2025 Amfest. Look at all these pyrotechnics. Oh, this looks like WWE." And people were saying that left and right. And then I went and put together a montage of the 2023 to the 2024 Amfest. And guess what? There was more fireworks. It looked more like WWE. Charlie Kirk is going out there with the smoke and fire and freaking going out there like, it was a,
and they were loving it then, right?
Yeah.
The same people, they were loving it then.
Well, the problem is those aren't the people though,
Tinashe. They didn't even know who Charlie was.
Yeah, they don't know who Charlie is. They don't have anything to compare and contrast to. All they say is like, "Oh, look at this tasteful, beautiful, blonde, talented, educated, successful woman. I hate her. Look at what she's doing with these fireworks. This is what she does." Never even understanding that was Charlie. That's Charlie's image for TPUSA, a celebration.
Can I tell you one of the craziest things I came across, dude? There was a woman on, it's always X, that dang cesspool of X. Burn it down. Okay, so this woman puts out a message where she is basically affirming that she is willing to take Erica out. She said, like, "I would be willing to do this." She put this on in public. I had a video back in the day. I covered this. And I was like, I need to go into this woman's profile. Who is this? Right? She had no bot, whatever it was. It was her face right there. All cuckoo, all crazy right there in that little picture. Click on the profile, and this woman, as her banner, has a picture taken on her phone of Candace on her screen. So I already knew what kind of insane that we were dealing with.
Yeah.
And in the bio, the audacity, Gary, this woman had "Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk." In her, the same woman who is willing to harm Erica is the same one with "Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk" in her bio.
Yeah.
So what you just said right there, it's like even when Charlie was first assassinated, Nick Fuentes comes out with this little, "We may not have always agreed, but he was a good guy, blah, blah, blah." Then, you go back a month before that, and he was talking about how we need to disrupt all these turning point events and how the Groypers need to go out there and, cause havoc, basically.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, most of these people, I'm getting the sentiment, and perhaps you would agree with this, is these people were never turning point.
No.
These people came for the train wreck, but not the show.
Well, they wanted to rewrite history. Like most of these people are the same people that hate it. Like pretending, like I remember following Charlie Kirk. All the hate that was always directed at him by the left and sometimes the right, always existed. Yeah. It always existed. And for them to sit there and pretend now that like this is new, it's not. And to your point, I want to show you this real quick because I think this is important. Let me see, where are we? Oops. So, there's the Ian Carrolls out there in the world, and there's the Ryan Matas. My God, if you look up some of Ryan Matas' tweets about Charlie Kirk, disgusting. But yet he's trying to find justice for him now, right?
Oh,
I mean, it is just insanity on full display. And here is a tweet, and I've showed this before. But this is a tweet, of course, if I can find it. There we go. This is a tweet from Ian Carroll, and it is 3 days before he was killed.
Okay.
3 days before he was killed. Jesus defeated death so you can live. That's Charlie's message. And you've dedicated your life to serving the people who killed him. 9/7/25.
Okay.
9/7/25. And Jen, I don't know if you can find some of the crazy Ryan Mata tweets. I have them somewhere. It'd take me forever to find them. But, the amount of hatred that has always been pushed at Charlie Kirk, that now these people, and by the way, a lot of these people are complicit in it. Now they want to pretend that they are now the defenders of Charlie Kirk, and they just want to destroy TPUSA because allegedly somebody went against what Charlie's vision for TPUSA was. You're a liar. You were trying to destroy TPUSA when Charlie was around. You couldn't do it. Now that he's gone, you want to try to finish it off. And then, the idea that Charlie Kirk, because a couple days prior to this, and this is a little bit crazy too, when we start talking about timelines, a couple days prior to this, we see some text messages. But by the way, Andrew Colville willingly gave to people to investigate, just out of just trying to do due diligence and turn over every stone. Charlie expressed frustration with the Jewish donors.
Sure.
Trying to control who comes on, who doesn't come on, all these things. And by the way, he says, basically, I'm going to bring back on Candace Owens. Folks, that was a joke and a threat. You know what? They keep messing around, bring back Candace Owens. Like, oh my God, don't do that. Like, that's so. But these are Americans that he's frustrated with and donors. And by the way, I have, as someone that runs a business, people that have spent a lot of money with me, which I love and I appreciate, they'll contact me and be like, Gary, you said this and this about a political stance. I just can't do business with you anymore because this is what you believe. Okay. Sorry.
It's their prerogative.
It's like, if you want to support me, great. If you don't,
exactly.
But there is no to twist that text message and try to pretend that suddenly Charlie Kirk was going to become these whack job Ian Carrolls and Ryan Matas and anti-Semites. It's such a distortion of the truth, and you're a liar, and you always have been. And you lied about Charlie Kirk when he was alive. You're lying about him when he's dead, and that's just the way it is.
Shameless in his basement dwelling activities. That is Ian Carroll.
Yeah. And just about whether we're talking about Project Constitution. I mean, look at the scumbags that are on their side. And I'll be honest with you, Tinashe, I was going into this, I was pretty much indifferent to Israel. I didn't like, I heard all these kind of tropes. I didn't even explore. I didn't care about Israel. Like, you know what? I'm generally against sending a bunch of money over to other countries, period. All these things. Like, I could be convinced one way or the other. And I started hearing these different arguments about Israel. And I researched them. And number one, 99% of them were either lies or a complete distortion of the truth. And I went in there completely objective. I didn't, I don't know, maybe Israel's evil. I really hadn't looked at the political dynamic and the diplomatic, our relationship with Israel, what we provide them, what they provide us, and so on and so forth. I could have been convinced one way or the other because, again, I'm never going to hate Jews. I think that is unbiblical, and I think that's a good way to find yourself in hell. But I'm completely open to extreme criticism, extreme distrust of Israel, the nation, of Israel, a government. Completely fine with that. That doesn't. I can reconcile that easily. Then I started researching this stuff, and I found like these people are lying. And then on top of that, I just looked at everything else that I knew these people were lying.
Yeah.
And it really was almost like, you know what? I don't know how I feel about Israel, but I know exactly who you are. And I want nothing to do with you. And it's weird to me that all of these scumbags are pushing this. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm already just by compare and contrast, I can kind of default. I think I'm on Israel's side on this a little bit. And then I continue to research it. And it's like, oh, this is the truth. You were lying, and you're trying to destroy and divide our country.
It's like as much, and I'm talking about rows, like right there is 11 books. 8 of them are, on Israel. 8 of them are political, right? There's one there that is biblical, etc. And I say it's fascinating to me because when you just look on the surface, you read nothing, you know nothing about geopolitics. If we just looked at, let's say, I like to compare the protests or these, gatherings. So when you have these so-called pro-Palestinian gatherings, right? What I oftentimes see is a quote-unquote Palestinian flag being waved, likely an IRGC flag being waved now, and I see American flags being burnt and possibly an Israeli flag being burnt. When I see an Israeli protest, I see Star of David and I see the stripes and stars. Right? So for me, that tells me something, Gary. If every time I see Israel coming together, or those who are open Zionists and potentially happen to be Jewish, they somehow have an American flag and they are representing America with respect. I have gone through search after search. You can do this, so have a good time with this. Search after search of images of these Israeli protests, and you will always see an American flag being respected every time. Pro-Palestinian, American flag burnt.
Yeah.
And so to me, when it talks about allyship, because we want to talk about the political aspect, right? Is there an advantageous relationship between us and Israel? And from an op position, from, intelligence position, these are crucial positions to have, crucial relationships. You can't do without them.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at that on the surface, away from the geopolitics, away from everything else. I say, okay, what's the sentiment? So you're telling me I'm supposed to side with the people that will burn my flag? That's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And, another great example of that is Iranians and American Iranians and their view of the Iran war.
There we go.
I mean, they're out there cheering and waving American flags, waving Iranian flags, and saying, we need this. We need our people free.
That's right.
The other thing that I've noticed, whether you're talking about Ian Carroll or some of these other people, you and I could probably separate, going back to what I was saying, like we can separate Israel, the state, versus Jews, right? So first of all, if you're one of these idiots that think that 0.2% of the population controls the whole world, clearly that means that the Jews are a super race. They are more intelligent than anybody else. And forget about how diverse they are. Again, like There's liberal Jews, Democrat Jews, anti-Zionist Jews. There's Messianic Jews, Jews that convert to Christianity. There's conservative Jews. Like, there's not even enough of them to get together and like create this cabal that runs the world, like you say. So that's dumb. But what I find interesting is that if you trace all these people back that talk about Israel and are pushing all this stuff, where they started was they hated the Jews. And of course, Jews are associated with Israel, so they hate Israel and they attribute all this evil and these, satanic cabal type thing onto Israel itself. Like, when you start from that, there's no way that you can objectively assess our relationship with the with Israel and the United States. And of course, they're going to default to that. And that was the thing. One of the, I try to steel man my own arguments, right? I try to prove myself wrong. I try to figure out like the most extreme positions. And one of the things that I did, Ian Carroll, if you're listening, I went through most of his stuff. Like, I want to be convinced that Jews are bad, and I want to be convinced that Israel is evil. And I went through, and I actually started going through and hearing what we had to say, and then looking up the facts. And it's like, well, that's just a complete lie. Well, this is a complete lie. This is a complete lie. One of the things that he pushes is the Schofield Bible. Was
started on that.
Like, that has been disproven, debunked time and time again.
Well, the protocols of Zion are still their baseline. Like, this is what they're still spewing. And if you were to ask them, what is it? It's like the Talmud conversation, right? I love to go. I just was a simple, straightforward. I say, oh, so you've read the Talmud. Okay. Which volume? Most of them don't even know it's a series. Most of them don't even know that it's countless. Most of them don't even know that if you don't speak Hebrew, you can't read the Talmud. Yeah. There are Jews who can't get through the Talmud without help from rabbis who are sophisticated. There are rabbis who are sophisticated, can't get through the Talmud, right? All these commentaries, etc., through the thousands of years. So for me, I say, okay, go ahead. You're snitching on yourself. You don't know. You're, like you said, you're liars. Yeah. No, it's lie after lie after lie. And that's the problem that we have. Like, everybody out there, we are dealing with fifth generational warfare. All right. This is an information war, and this is where all of this is fought. And this is why we have to go out there, and we cannot allow small lies to stand. They have to be combated. And Gary and Tinashe cannot do it on our own. That's why we need you. In the same way, there's a reason why thousands of Candace cultists and bots are flooding our comments. Yeah. They're the ones out there fighting, defending. We need the same army out there defending, not us. I don't care if you defend me or Tinashe. What I want you to do is defend the truth. When you see a lie, and especially if you're a Christian, you don't have the option. You cannot stand by and just say, like, you have to combat that lie. That's right. The reason that you're seeing that is because God wanted you to see that. You are the person that he chose. Like, hey, you know what? I chose this for you. You can combat this right now. And if everybody that normally sits silent spoke up, spoke out, pushed back on the lies, like, that's how we save this country. That's how we save this country. But deciding that you're just going to be a pacifist, that you're just going to be an observer, you're going to be a bystander in all this, that's how you lose the country. Yeah. And I know some of you are afraid, or like, you don't like conflict. I get it. Do it once. And you'd be like, you know what? That wasn't bad. That was actually more effective than I thought it was. I know, because God chose you and empowered you, and you knew exactly what to say to change the minds of certain people. That's why you're seeing that. That's right. And you could either do that, or you can just be a bystander and then just watch your country turn into something, hand your country over to your children or your grandchildren that doesn't look like America. But you wanted to stay silent, and you were like, I don't like conflict. I don't like getting into it with people. If you're watching this, you're a social media consumer. Yeah. And you are here for a reason. If you got time to watch this, you got time to go out there and combat lies when you see them. Like, nope, that's not true. And here's why it's not true. Don't get into it back and forth. Chances are some spots, especially if you're on X. Like, before you get into these conversations or these debates and arguments, go check their profile. If they got like followers, they were created in September of 2025, which so many of them are, that's weird. And they're foreign, like, just block them. But make sure
you're not waiting, because that's one of the things they want you to do. If you're down there in the comments, and if I'm down in the comments fighting with this, I'm taken away from actually addressing bigger things. They want to demoralize us, whether they're bots or real people. They want to demoralize us. They want to push falsehoods, and people will buy into it. And guess what? People will buy into the truth too. But if all we hear is the lie that stands on its own and it's never challenged, that's what's going to be bought into. That's what's going to be pushed. That's what they're going to accept. And it takes a lot, all the things that Tinashe and I are talking about right now, the lies that are pushed about the Talmud, about our relationship with Israel, about Jews in general, the lies are quick and easy to push. It actually takes time and research to go through and give you the truth. And that's why propaganda works, because, a lie is around the world before the truth has time to put its shoes on.
Yeah.
And it requires, we have to work harder than them because they're outworking us.
That's
we have
right.
to outnumber them. We actually do outnumber them, but you don't realize it because you feel like we have this fake perception on X. Like truth, logic is on our side. There's no reason why the only reason that we lose this war is because people stay silent.
That's so good, man. So good. So good. I can't add a Cupid on top of that. That's it. It's our job. It's nobody else's job.
Yeah.
Like one day Gary woke up and he went, who's going to defend my country? Oh, I'm the guy who's being called to do it.
Yeah. I 9/11 happened, and 2 days later I was in the recruiting station. I was so angry. And again, I felt a calling, and I already I was 20 years old. I was 21 years old, already had a kid, young, already had a career, was doing well for myself. And I was like, this is what I need to do. Like,
wow,
I knew it. And so that's what I ended up doing. But yeah.
And thank you for your service, brother. I mean,
thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We're blessed to be able to do it in this respect, but I mean, this is today's front lines, but you've been somebody who has given your life. And so that's something I respect. I will forever, you can't say nothing to a man who has been willing to give his life.
Well, I was, I'm extremely lucky. Number one, I've lost friends in combat. And to be honest with you, I lost just as many when we came back. Like the amount of special operators and other people that I served with it when I was in conventional forces as well. The amount of people that end up killing themselves is something that weighs heavily on my heart. But on top of that, I've lost men and women that have fought for this country that I knew, that I had close relationships with. So we weren't fighting for the Iraq war. We weren't fighting for weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
We were there so other Americans wouldn't have to be. We were fighting for the principles and all that is good of this country. And that's what we were there. We're fighting for one another.
Yeah.
And so, we have corruption in this country. We have a lot of faults. We have a lot of problems, but we have an overwhelming amount of good, and we have an overwhelming amount of good people, and the principles and what this country was founded upon is better than anything else out there.
Absolutely.
And so, the idea that I would betray those people and I would say something that I don't believe in, or I would push lies against my country or push lies to my countrymen and women, right? To convince you of something, to convince you of the like the government isn't lying to you. I've talked about distrust of government on this whole thing. It sickens me. I don't know. Like I said, man, like we have a responsibility to the men and women that come before us. You have a responsibility. Your father, God only knows what he sacrificed to get your family here. And the people that are watching this, I promise you, you have relatives that have given your life for this country, that have fought and died for this country, that were willing to stand up against evil in this country, whether we're talking about the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, different skirmishes in between the states, whether we're talking about World War I, World War II. Like, we didn't fight those wars because we thought they were great. We were fighting those wars because we wanted to make sure that those wars stayed outside of the United States. And I went knowing I didn't know anything about the military when I went in. I was like, I don't want someone to go and die in my stead. So anyways, that's where we're at. And so standing up against truth shouldn't be that hard, folks. Like, you owe it to everybody that came before you to fight for this country in your own way. And that could look like a lot of different things. Maybe you get a YouTube channel, maybe you just are down in the comments fighting it out, whatever it is. But yeah.
Man, we're gonna have you on our side of the neighborhood, and I want to do a deep dive interview because I know there's a wealth of things that you discuss on your channel, but there's things I know that, ask the right questions. I want to go all the way there. You probably see things and experience things that most people can't imagine. And so, but my people would definitely appreciate having your story shared with us because I appreciate what you do. And, I don't do everything. Sometimes I get asked to be on the platform or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, cool. But what is this really about? But I'm like, nah, this guy's solid. It's not just because we share the same common enemy, but you're somebody who's actually fighting the fight. And you really stand on this. Like, I believe that I'm going to look back 10 years later and be like, yep, there's one man who didn't compromise. When everybody else did, there's one of the few who did it. So, shout out to you and shout out to you good people.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I feel the exact same way about you, Tinashe. Like, I think it was actually Jen that turned me onto your content and I started watching it. I was like, man, this guy, same thing. Like, you aren't afraid. You're out there speaking the truth. And look, anybody in this space that's speaking out against the woke right, speaking out against Candace and all these other, like, I have such deep respect for, because I know it's not profitable. It's not popular. You're going to get attacked. I've never been attacked from the left. I've been talking about conservative politics. I've had Antifa kind of come after me. I've had other lies and other people that have, spread lies about me and go on smear campaigns. The level of vitriol, disgusting, death threats, doxing, people have come into my house and vandalized my property, putting my kids' pictures on social media, creating just false narratives. I've never had the left do that. Wow. But yet Candace cult does.
Yeah.
It's like they want to destroy you for telling the truth. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. I would never, no matter how much I disagree with somebody. And I'll be honest with you, and people know this that have been watching my channel for a long time. People were like, Gary, you got to do a deep dive on Canada, especially when the whole Erica Kirk series, the documentary that whatever she was doing, that looked exactly like I don't know, when she was making that series, didn't you think that it was going to be like, all right, she's going out, she's going to go do interviews.
It's the same chair. She didn't even change cushions.
They would change. It's the same. You took a week off to do the same thing? I thought you were out there like man on the street. Like, have you seen Erica? Oh, hey, you're Erica's cousin. Oh, hey, you're Erica's high school friend. Tell us what she like. I expected it to be ad hominem, but I expected something. But no.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I believe she moved the cross 3 inches to the left. You know what I mean?
Well,
there was a.
Well, you know why that happened, right? Because she got into a huge fight with George. They almost got into a divorce. It was crazy. Like, you could tell just the way that cross was moved.
Oh, the way that it was.
There might have been somebody killed in her house, like because a picture was moved to Charlie. People were like,
"Damn, Jada."
You got to start looking into her past, and like, I think it's fair game at this point for sure. But I would just wanted to keep it, and I still do. I just want to keep it factual. I want to keep it what's on it. I do think that like the fact that George Farmer was arrested for a DUI, I do think that's very relevant. And the fact covered it up because she lied about it on air. I have no problem exposing that, but I don't like why go after her family. She's already said that there are a bunch of they've had some issues. So I don't even want to say anything derogatory about her family. I think that's as dumb as going after Erica's dying mother. And I think that is one of the most malicious, sadistic things that I've ever witnessed. And the people that can participate that and not understand it for the evil that it is, shame on you.
That's demonic. That's the demonic activity. You're heartless.
Yeah. Really
and them folks, again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That came to life for me when I saw the reaction after October 7th and seeing how this left, tolerant left was literally calling for more of it, talking about globalize it. Yeah. And then now seeing the cult of Scamdis. This is next level degeneracy, next level demonic. And, that is one part. I know the next time we get together, we'll get into scripture and things of that nature. Shout out to your awesome producer on the show. We'll definitely make that happen. But again, we are in interesting times, as we said off camera. And this is signs of the time.
We're in the wildest timeline ever.
Yes, we are. And I believe things are wrapping up. So, folks, you better get right with your Savior. You better get right with him. That's all I know.
I couldn't agree. And I've shared this story. Like I've always been a believer, and definitely after my military time and things like that, I had a great relationship with God. And there was a long time where we basically started going to a church here, and we found some issues with that church. We didn't like going, and then we looked for some other churches. We couldn't find them, and so the next thing I know, 3 or 4 years has passed, and we haven't been going to church, and then Charlie Kirk was killed, and this was something I touched on last night. Like going to church is really important, and it's like you get re-energized, you're held accountable, I can tell the difference about me being able to keep the reins on my flesh when I don't go to church.
Okay.
And I had fallen out of a relationship with God, and then Charlie Kirk was killed.
Yeah.
And it was very eye-opening to me. And there's probably a few days go by, and I'm talking to my kids about Charlie Kirk. And I'm realizing like what a benefit, what an asset. Like I was literally thinking like my kids are not going to see additional videos of Charlie Kirk. They're not going to be able to be influenced by Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk started this revival of conservatism, Christianity, and made all these things cool again for our youth. And to some extent, I guess I was almost abdicating my responsibility for my own children's salvation and their upbringing. And like, I hope Charlie Kirk's still around when they're a teenager.
Wow.
And then I realized that, and then we were talking about those things, and then my 11-year-old said, "Dad, I'd like to get baptized." I'm like, done. And then on top of that, just the guilt and my own condemnation of like, you are not doing right by God, and you're definitely not you are not being a responsible father. So anyways, we started going to church again. And like it's so important, and it's so easy to let those things slip and come. We were talking about it last night. There's all these reasons not to go to church. Like it doesn't matter. Like, no, church is important. That congregation is important. That's why it's in the Bible. That's why they talk about it. That's why they've met regularly. Yeah, there's some bad churches out there, but you got to find the right one. And it is, no, you don't have to go to church to be saved, but going to church sure helps you with your salvation. And on top of that, it exposes your kids to a congregation of people that they want to be around, and to ensure they don't get caught up by the world. And even going back, like you and I fell, we basically backslid, right? At some point, we walked away from church, but that foundation is what brought us back. And that foundation is what we still fall back on today to develop our opinions and to look at things through the lens of Christ, through the Bible. And it's so important. And, for a long time, I'll be honest with you, I'm like, who am I to talk about those things? I'm not a minister. I'm not a pastor. I believe those things, but it was the same thing. Like having the courage to talk about things that you're not comfortable with, whether it's standing up against Candace Owens, whether it's standing up against the left, whatever it is, it gets easier and easier. And you realize that's what you're supposed to be doing, right?
That's right.
So
that's right.
I don't know. Hopefully that helps other people out there. But man, I just love what you're doing, and I have so much respect for what you're doing, and you're the real deal. And this is the other thing that you mentioned earlier. It's like the left and like Candace Owens has been coordinating and has been a self-licking ice cream cone since the beginning of this. From the very beginning of this, she was coordinating with Ian Carroll. She was coordinating with Baron Coleman. She was coordinating with Ryan Mata, Project Constitution. And for whatever reason, we are not organized on this side. And this is Republicans in general. We're not organized on this side. We find reasons to, I don't know, it's like, I don't like the way they said that one thing, so I'm not going to have them on my show. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to concentrate on what we believe in. That's why we're so easily fractured and why the left is so indivisible. They are an indivisible, immovable force. They will vote blue no matter who. They will compromise no matter what. We're over here, we're like, we don't compromise. We're principled. Never mind the long game. Never mind, like, yeah, we didn't get everything we want. But if we can build on that and we get somebody else in, we can get a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And we're losing through incrementalism and we can win through incrementalism. But you people are too silly and you focus on all the negative too much. But my point is like, I love finding allies like you. And I hope that we do get more organized. And I hope that we, you know, you and I definitely need to do this on a regular basis for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's not a question. I mean, and, you know, when I'm back in your neck of the woods, then, you know, we make something happen live. And I think there's an element of even, you know, like touching grass, which I have to remember, especially being in this, like in between Gen Z and the millennial generation. Like I'm 30. So I was born 96, last in the millennial, like first is the Gen Z. And it's like this missing element of grassroots of like getting together and fellowship, and you bringing up church, it just reminded me of that. You know, it's like, can we come together? They do that, right?
Yeah.
They'll come together for these massive protests and stand up against this, whatever it is. And so it's like, okay, are we willing to actually put, you know, foot to ground? And we got guys like a Scott Presley who's knocking on doors from town. I'm like, man, all of us need to be so engaged to the utmost. Because this, I mean, like you said, it is a war, but we're in a different sort of, I don't know if you call it the fifth year or something like that.
Fifth generation warfare.
Fifth generation warfare. Yeah. Like I look at it.
Social media is the war front.
There we go. So it's like, this is real. We're actually in it. And, you know, there's some folks who say, well, I want to stay out the war. And it's like, well, it's going to affect you regardless. If it's not you your kids, like they're on those tablets, they're on those phones, whatever it is. And guess what? Somebody is convincing them of something.
Yeah. You standing out, you taking the easy way out, you are drafting your kids to have to face this down the road. And not just the generational war, but potentially real wars.
Yes.
And potentially a real civil war. That's my greatest fear. Like we're at a point to where we're essentially a two-party country, whether you like it or not. But we have conservatives and we have leftists. We have the right and the left, and like we've gotten to a point to where our belief systems are so irreconcilable, like we have nothing left in common.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't change and we don't continue to infiltrate that, and what I mean by infiltrate that is through the war of ideas, like Charlie Kirk was doing. If we don't start pulling away from that, like we're headed for a civil war. I mean, there's no other way around it as far as I'm concerned.
The writing's on the wall, brother. So again, you know, I'll continue to support what you got going on. And next time you're gonna be in my neck of the woods. So we'll make sure you get on the show and we can interview over there.
You name the time. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. here. So
all right, let's get it. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Tinashe, give us some like words to the people out there. What's some things you leave the people with?
Closing words. Let's see. This is a reminder from, you know, the root system and the core of what we're currently in is, look, good wins, right? God wins. Like the end is already written, but we can't check out because we know that God has always been a master delegator, right? He has loved to be in relationship with us. He created all of this so he can give us dominion over this creation and to be doers. And so, you know, to tie it in with your last message, I love how you said your videos are calls to action. Like I feel the same way. where the message that always comes out is like, we need to do. And so we remember that it is one. And so that gives you the fearlessness. And you can walk out there and know whatever happens, whatever it is. Because look, there's going to be somebody who goes to jail for what they believe in. There's going to be somebody, a Charlie, who loses their life, but the battle is won. That man stepped into eternity with his father, and his father said, well done, good and faithful servant. That's what he got. And he will have everlasting, like the rest of those who place their belief in the Most High. So for me, I say, remember that the battle is won, and it will give you strength for the battle. You know, God don't need but a remnant to work with. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And he will use that remnant. He'll use, the Gideon's 300, whoever it is, in order to get the entire job done. And so we need to place our faith and our trust in him and him alone. And so when I look at my brother, I say, okay, we know who we're fighting on the side of, and we know that this is a one battle. Let's go out there and do it. We're not going to be selfish. We're not going to be egotistical. We're not going to, get in, like you said, these little conflicts, but also it's not about us. And that's why Gary gets blessed, because you don't care. You're like, I can do with or without this. You don't need to be famous. You could, build a business tomorrow, be tucked away with your family, but this is your calling and your vocation. And I'm the same way. You can't buy us. And so also have that spirit of uncompromise. Like, don't be somebody who is easily gotten. Don't be a Megyn Kelly. Don't be somebody who looks at how am I being perceived, or people liking me, or people wanting me. Let all of that go and say, am I willing to fight for what is right? God will take care of the rest of it. Don't even worry about that. And what he's got for you on the other side of eternity, you can't even comprehend, So yeah, those are really my lasting words. If I left today and these were the final words, I say, God has won the war. We're going to fight these little battles, but he's with us through and through. And when you're on his side, you're on the winning side.
Yep. And the only thing I could even add to that is just remember, faith without works is dead.
Amen.
It requires actions on our part. That doesn't determine our salvation.
You're right. I'm glad you said that.
What's happening here and the environment that we live in, for sure. I got so caught up in our conversation, I kind of forgot to. You got a little bit of time for some questions and comments from the chat?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Of course.
Hi, everyone. So glad to be here. Thank you, Gary, Jen. You're awesome. And Tinashe, you're truly amazing. God bless you all.
Well, God bless you too, man.
I agree with that. I left chicks on the right to come watch.
Shout out to the chicks on the left. I'm done.
Yeah, we just had them on our show the other day, and that was a big deal for me. I've been following them for a really long time. They're like the OG. They go all the way back to the Tea Party days. Wow. And I love that they're still successful and still pushing their message.
Yeah, that's truth. Like, they stand what they stand on.
Happy to see two of my faves together. I found Tinashe before I found Paramount Tactical. Well,
much love. Yeah, we're gonna make sure the folks flood over here.
I like Tinashe's hoodie. Is that some swag that people can buy?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's the proud Goim supply. Yes, sir.
Make sure you guys go down in the description. All of his social media is there, and go support Tinashe for sure.
Thank you, brother.
Go buy some stuff. I'm gonna buy a couple hoodies today. I'm gonna get them from my kids.
Thank you.
Gary, killing it with the pop-up live streams. Thank you very much. Love your work, Gary. Don't get to watch live much, but I watch every one of your videos. Well, thank you very much. Good morning from South Texas. I listen to Tinashe. Is a good channel too, defending the truth. So what we got to do. We got to make sure that we are everybody that's on the side of the truth. We got to coordinate more. We got to cooperate, and we need to be indivisible and not let the minor differences between us divide us. Tinashe, I love him.
No, love you too.
Tinashe always has solid biblical content. I agree.
Thank you, Natalie. We'll be back with that.
I switched from being a Democrat to a Republican in the 90s when I got a brain and realized I was always a Republican.
Shout out to the brain.
Yep. That's feisty Gma. So refreshing to hear the truth. Thank you, 06 Chevy. Good morning. There were 5 of us. We grew up in mixed neighborhood schools. I went to 9 different schools before I graduated. We were not racist at all. Most people we knew were just like us. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tinashe is one of my favorites. I love the pod with the chicks. You have great taste in guests. Thank you. A lot of that goes to Jen. She has been on it.
Yeah, she's been crushing it. Like, yeah, that's on point.
She has brought so much value to the channel, and I appreciate everything that she does so much. It is God working in this space. I agree. Amen. And isn't that great too? Like, we know that we have this thing that social media that has ultimately been used for so much evil, to spread corruption, to spread misinformation, to spread the worst content possible, the worst ideas possible. And it is good to be able to use the same tool to spread the gospel, to spread the truth, to fight for what's right. The left has been able to utilize, they've been on social media, they've been on marketing and messaging. They're so much better at that than we are. And there's lots of reasons that I've discussed before, but we got to get better at it, because this is where the war is being fought, whether we realize it or not. And if we're not engaged in it and we're not beating them, we're losing. We're losing.
It's true. Yeah.
Tinashe Peter just got another subscriber. I'll be watching the live stream scheduled in 1 hour. Awesome.
Salute. Thank you, man.
I already follow Tinashe because he is a truth teller, same as Gary. Thank you very much. Right. I love Tinashe. He is a must watch for me. Social media is like a drug to people like that.
Yeah.
MAGA is being hijacked on the internet. These podcasts are opportunists. They do anything for views. In real life, MAGA is alive and kicking ass. I agree with that as well. Like, that is what they want. That is the demoralization. That is one of the major objectives of any propaganda, to convince you that the war can't be won. And that is what they're doing. It's what we do to our enemies overseas. Like, that's why, if you look at some of the, just from like World War II, where we, for instance, special forces. You guys know that the first special forces unit was 5th Special Forces Group? Do you know why we did that? Because we wanted them to believe that there was 4 other ones. And there's no way they could beat us.
Smoke and mirrors. Wow.
Candace Owens viewers have the same attitudes and mannerism of leftists. They're basically Ilhan Omar Republicans.
Thanks.
I was suspicious of the decision of the Daily Wire to hire Candace. It just didn't seem to be a good fit to me. I really liked her in Blexit and PragerU. No more. Yeah, look, I was a huge Candace fan. Yeah, I wouldn't say I was a huge Candace fan, but I saw her as an ally. I saw her as, looking back, I realized I didn't really follow her, but she was always in the periphery of other people that I did follow, whether it was Charlie Kirk, PragerU. Looking back, I realized that she never said, I don't think she's ever had an original political thought. She's really good at parroting what other people say, and because it was coming from a Black female conservative, it sounded fresh and new. And don't get me wrong, like, we need more Black conservatives, other minority conservatives, female conservatives. We need that. And she was marketable. And she exploited that. I don't think she has any really, people say she's left. I just don't think she has any real foundation of political philosophy.
I mean, she said that to Jeremy Bourne and I think it was Marissa over at PragerU. She said, well, she bases her opinions off of what the crowd says.
Yeah.
They literally, they asked her like, oh, so how do you form your opinions? Whatever they think.
Yeah. She said something like, I'm the voice of the people, whatever they say. Yeah. So she basically just said, hey, I am completely audience captured. I will say whatever. And we see lots of evidence of that, right? She came out right after she had that meeting with Erica Kirk. She's like, hey, this is what happened. He was killed. He was shot in the neck. The bullet did fragment. And like, her chat went off the rails. Like, nope. Yeah. And she went back to the next day just spreading lies.
Wow.
My mom always said Candace didn't have a good spirit. I would tell her she was crazy. Candace is great. My mom was 100% correct.
Shout out to Mama. Mama knows. Mama knows, child.
Tinashe, Gary, keep fighting for light and truth. Don't grow weary and well doing. Amen. And to kind of reiterate the importance of a community and going to church and things like that, like, just having this talk with you, Tinashe. Like, this completely reinvigorates me, motivates me. It's like, hey, man, I got somebody else on my team. And that's the same thing. And, hopefully, and I want to put this out there, like, you ever see Gary going off the rails and you see me doing something that isn't right? And man, I have found myself more than once, like, especially on X, giving into the flesh and be like,
going crazy. I might have to pull up in the comment section, Gary.
Hey, Gary, that like,
don't ask me to do it. I'll join you. Don't ask somebody out there to do it. Mama.
We need people to hold us accountable, right? That's true. There's been many people. There's been people that I knew were saying something in the comments that were like, Gary, you went off the rails in this. That was below you. You shouldn't have done that. And that's when you need to humble yourself and be like, you know what, you're right. You're right. And you immediately want to. And don't get me wrong, there's all these people, the haters on there. They're gonna pick you apart no matter what. But I can tell when there's somebody that's like, hey, Gary, you said this. So again, community is important. Fellowship is important. Having allies and friends, whether that's on a political side or a spiritual side, a church community, it is important. It reinvigorates you. It re-energizes you. It holds you accountable. It keeps you on track. That's what that is for. And Candace just wants power, even if she has to be Judas to do it, even if she has to burn every bridge. She is a Christian. We know gaining the world means losing your soul. Gary's fed up with Candace and pushing back. Let's go. When she starts to smear me directly the way that she has, and now she's lumping me into this conspiracy, trying to say that I was somehow prepositioned by the federal government, which completely, like, again, going back to that contract that we sold equipment to, folks, that started in like June. So it doesn't even fit a timeline. It's so dumb. I don't care if it was $1.5 million. It would never change what I do. We sell that stuff all the time. And, you can try to use that against me. It's so dumb. Like it is, don't get me wrong. It gets me a little frustrated. Great guest, Gary. Love both your channels.
Absolutely.
Gary used to live in kibbutz with me in West Virginia. I live in West Virginia. I live outside of Martinsburg, West Virginia. I'm actually in the same city, in the same county as Tim Pool. I've never met him, but we're in the same city.
Okay.
He's gone off the rails a little bit too. And Tim, if you're watching, I don't even want to come on your show. I would love to have you on mine. I would love to interview you, hear about what you have to say. We can figure out the stuff that we agree with and disagree with, but I would love to have you on your show and, all those things. Gary has more integrity in his little pinky that Candace has or ever will have in her entire body. And the same thing goes with Tinashe.
Appreciate you.
Love this collab. Thank you for becoming a member. Folks, memberships, that's a big deal for us. If you can support us a couple dollars a month, that goes a long way. That allows us to dedicate more time, resources, and energy to bringing you content. It's just a fact. Like this stuff costs money. It does. And same thing with Tinashe. Make sure you guys go support. Oh, speaking of which,
yes, sir.
We just had Nathan Livingstone from Milk Bar TV.
Oh yes, that's my guy. Yes, sir.
He's awesome. And look, he is doing a fundraiser so that he can legally defend himself against the frivolous lawsuits that Andrew Tate is running against him.
Yeah,
folks, please go donate to that. And on X, he has like another 15,000 that he needs to get to reach his goal. Isn't it crazy? Like, how many times, Tinashe, have you seen these huge creators use his content? I've used his content. I always try to give him any sort of attribution, but I see these huge accounts using stuff all the time. And I'm talking just straight screen record it, use it on their own. And then there's people that do share his content. But either way, I posted last night, is like, I'm just going to put this out there. If all of you big creators that constantly use Nathan Livingstone's content would just give him back 10% of what he earned off his own content, 20 grand would be raised in a heartbeat. It's like,
That's right.
why don't you help him continue helping you by helping him out with his defense so he can be around and he can, give you more content to use.
That's so good. Yeah, he's been a soldier in this. Shout out to man going into the trenches.
Exactly. The way that he communicates is so effective. Yeah. The funny part is Candy is running her own psyop. She's getting the left to buy into an even crazier version of Alex Jones after the left spent years calling us tinfoil hat people. Now look at them. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It was the bees, Gary. It was the bees. The Freemasons. It is Operation Looking Glass. It was ancient Sumerian technology.
The Palladians.
It was the Jews. The Mormons. It's Gary now. Gary
Nelson Mandela.
I'm waiting for them to say. I'm not even gonna put that out in the ether because it'll be.
I was about to say because you're giving them ideas. You're planting seeds here. That's what you're doing.
I'm so thankful for the rise of strong, principled Christian men like you and Tinashe. My prayers for the continued resurgence of godly men. I agree.
God bless you, Janet.
Get Ryan McBeth on. He talks about war strategies. Would be happy to. I don't know who he is. We'll do some vetting. Jen, take a look at Ryan McBeth and be somebody that we can get behind. I would love that. Thank you very much, Susan. We appreciate you so much. Is everyone here aware of Promethean action? I've seen Promethean action.
Oh yeah.
Somebody keeps saying there's someone from Promethean action. I keep hearing it over and over. Somebody from that we need to have on. So
the Prometheus updates, I know about them. If they're the same people, then 100% you need to have them on.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Promethean updates provide who our actual enemy is and who Trump is fighting, the British Empire. Follow their YouTube channel. I will. I'll do a deep dive on that. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys in so many different ways you contribute to this channel, whether it's, being subscribers, watching, sharing. That's a big thing. Like one of the biggest things you guys can do, here's your call to action. Share our content, both mine and Tinashe's. Like we appreciate the super chats. We appreciate memberships. All those are great. But what's free, it's free. Just share our content. Share our content. If you believe in what we're doing, share our content. Help us to get new subscribers. Help us to grow this. Help us to spread this message. That is a call to action for you folks.
Amen.
But I love all the we've gotten some great suggestions from the chat, so we really appreciate you. Thank you very much, DDS Allen. Thank you, and blessings to everyone. I love you both, Gary. You don't know yet, but you have motivated me to get my own voice out there to do what the Lord's been calling me to do for over a year. Your call was just another confirmation. Hope to speak with you soon. Absolutely. Shoot us an email. Anything that we can do. Look, we've had a lot of people reach out to us and say, Gary, I've been thinking about doing this. I don't know where to get started. Here's where you get started. And it's easy. Like, you really want to get into social media and you have a message, come on the show. Let's start there. Let's start with a conversation. You'll get comfortable in front of the camera. Folks, I still get nervous every time I hit go live on this thing. Like, I still feel like I don't know what to do with my hands. It's like you start thinking like, how did I sound? What did I come across? I'm looking at the chats. I'm trying to have a conversation with Tinashe. I'm looking at camera settings. I'm like, is my audio good?
Is my microphone on? That I've been recording through my computer.
Like you got to ease it. And look, you got to make mistakes. And who cares? Who cares?
Yes, that's right.
I love this message though. But Susan Kukinda, and it's me. I don't know what you're saying, Jen. All right. But look, we have some great guests. Well, listen, folks, number one, Tinashe, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I knew we were going to have a great conversation. I was looking forward to it. Loved it. Had so much fun. Enjoyed it more than I exceeded my expectations by a lot. And I definitely want to do it on a regular basis. So you're welcome anytime. And then on top of that, anytime that you'd like me to come on, I'd be happy to come on, whatever I can do.
Oh, yeah. No, we're going to have you on ASAP.
Anytime you want me to share, number one, I'm going to share everything you put out as far as on social media. But if there's literally anything that I can ever do to help you, make sure you reach out to me. And I consider you a friend, an ally, and love it. Love it, man.
Amen. God bless you. God bless your family. Continue to keep you in prayer. And you know where to find me. That's
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Folks, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your love and support. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being truth tellers. You guys are the reason that we do this, and I can't say enough how grateful I am to have you in the audience. This is the actual high IQ outfit, not the other fake high IQ outfits. Anyways, thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day. I believe we have no show tonight. I'll let you know. We don't think we have a show tomorrow. I think it's Monday or Tuesday. But anyways, and who knows what'll pop up between now. Oh, we may do a show tonight. I have somebody that I'm working on. I'll let you know in the next couple hours. So make sure that you have you subscribe, but also hit that bell notification button. So we may do a show tonight, and I'll let you know on that. But anyways, thank you for all your support. We love you. But until next time, and Tinashe, you don't go anywhere. But everybody else, until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.